Chapter 755. Silently comparing the three inheritances, Ziyue was overjoyed. He felt that he had gained a lot. Not only were these extremely exquisite inheritances, but they also contained extremely powerful secret technique. Many of these secret techniques were even beyond the level of ordinary Tao technique. The mysterious rules involved were extremely complicated. Even with Ziyue's foundation and understanding of the Tao of heaven and earth, he felt dizzy just by delving a little deeper. It was difficult to see clearly and grasp them at all. One could imagine how powerful they were. However, from these inheritances I also discovered something. Every expert's inheritance is actually a system of its own. Most of them are based on cultivation technique. Regardless of whether it's offensive or defensive techniques, they are absolutely compatible with one's own cultivation technique and can be used to unleash the strongest power. For example, in Dragon Emperor Ao Shui's inheritance, it's mainly based on the Dragon World Defying technique. The 9 swings of the True Dragon and the True Dragon clone are closely related to the Dragon World Defying technique. Only by cultivating the Dragon World Defying technique can one unleash the strongest power of these techniques. It's the same for Heart Sword True Venerate's inheritance. Although the Universal Path True technique isn't a top-notch cultivation technique, the Heart Sword Sword Mantra is the most compatible with this cultivation technique. With this cultivation technique, one can unleash the strongest power. Ziyue also understood this point very well. No matter how strong an expert was, the most important thing was naturally the fundamental cultivation technique that they cultivated. For example, Dragon Emperor Ao Shui's Dragon World Defying technique, Heart Sword True Venerate's Universal Path True technique, and even Thunder Sage Venerate had his own fundamental cultivation technique, which was the 12 Thunder God Demon diagrams. It was just that many techniques were integrated into it. Therefore, Ziyue thought of himself. He realized that although he had created the first Yuan Great Tao technique, Heaven-Devouring Divine Transformation technique, Supreme Primordial Tao technique, and other cultivation techniques that were compatible with various realms. However, these were only cultivation technique. They were his fundamental cultivation technique. However, regardless of whether it was offensive or defensive techniques, he was using the techniques of his predecessors. Even though the cultivation method he cultivated was the pinnacle of the world and was suitable for any method, he could unleash any mystique, great mystique, or Tao technique to the extreme. With the help of the time spent comprehending the Tao and the Book of the Great Tao, he could even innovate and improve these methods to a perfect level. However, these were all methods of his predecessors. They were not methods that he created based on his own cultivation method that were most suitable for him to use. Looking at the past and the present from the predecessors, I should also have some awareness. In terms of cultivation methods, I have already reached the pinnacle. If I want to transcend again and no longer rely on the methods of others, then I must create a method that truly belongs to me, one that originates from my own heart. It was a technique that was comparable to the innate divine ability, the most suitable for him. For example, Dragon Emperor Ao Shui's True Dragon 9 Swaying Tails, Heart Sword True Venerate's Heart Sword Sword Mantra. Ziyue fell into deep thought. In particular, the Heart Sword True Venerate's Heart Sword Sword Mantra was a technique that could allow one to break through the limits of one's cultivation. In terms of grade, it was still a Taoist technique, but when cultivated to the extreme, its power would surpass that of Taoist technique. It was a supreme technique that could break through the shackles of cultivation. However, with my current accumulation, it won't be difficult for me to create my own secret technique, but I still need some accumulation to reach the level of the Heart Sword True Venerate's Heart Sword scripture. I'm not in a hurry. Everything can wait until I reach the primordial spirit realm. After all, the peak of the golden core realm is still too low. Without being able to witness the true primordial spirit realm, how can one create a technique that is comparable to the Heart Sword Sword Mantra or even surpass it? Ziyue was calm. Although he was shocked by the inheritances of the three great experts, he did not look at these inheritances with the reverence of low-level cultivators. Instead, the first thing he considered was whether his ability could compare to or even surpass them. He was very confident. What he lacked was only time. How is it? The weapon spirit of the memory inheritance Hall looked at Ziyue and asked with a smile. Impressive. Ziyue nodded and continued. Very impressive. Of course it is. Regardless of whether it is the inheritance of the spirit's severing realm or the supreme realm, or even many other inheritances, if it has no potential, how can it be qualified to enter the memory inheritance hall and be passed down through the ages? The weapon spirit said proudly before continuing, Fellow cultivator, you must know that there is the corpse of a fallen true dragon in the Dragon Emperor Palace. I can tell you with certainty that it was a mighty true dragon of the spirit severing realm. It was the strongest true dragon expert of the current generation other than the Dragon Emperor, the Ao Gu Tsang Ao Dragon King. Although it has fallen, the blood of the spirit severing realm true dragon flowing in its body is of an extremely high grade. As time passed, it has condensed into a true dragon blood crystal. If you can use this true dragon blood crystal to transform into a true dragon bloodline, not only will the bloodline reach an extremely high grade, but it will also be much safer. It had never given up on the idea of transforming Ziyue into a true dragon bloodline. Not only did it have to do with its master, but it was also an inheritance spiritual treasure that was refined by an expert of the Dragon Clan. Originally, it yearned for the true Dragon Clan. Therefore, it hoped that the Memory Inheritance Hall would be controlled by the true Dragon Clan in the future. At the very least, it should be an expert with the true dragon bloodline. Ziyue's talent, potential, and aptitude for cultivation were the best in the world. There was no one before him and no one after him. Naturally, it hoped that he could transform into an expert with the true dragon bloodline. It would be best if he could restore the supreme prosperity of the true Dragon Clan, which was the peak of the ancient times. Senior, thank you for your advice. However, I may have to disappoint you. Although the true dragon bloodline is good, it is not my choice. Although it is a pity that I can't obtain the Memory Inheritance Hall, I don't want my bloodline to be mixed because of this. Although I don't dare to compare myself to the true dragon divine beast, my pure bloodline is enough to look down on the current generation. However, I also hope that I can form my own bloodline so that my descendants can be proud of my bloodline. Bai Ziyue cupped his fists as he spoke. Then, he left. He was already satisfied that he could obtain 3 inheritances in this trip to the Memory Inheritance Hall. Although he was indeed jealous of the other inheritances, he did not have to obtain them. If his bloodline was mixed because of this, he would rather not have them. Of course, after he rejected them, he was also very careful and vigilant. The Jindan essence in his body circulated slowly, and he was always on guard. Fortunately, the Memory Inheritance Hall did not seem to have any evil intentions, or it could not activate the Memory Inheritance Hall to do anything at all. Ziyue walked out smoothly. How was it? Did you obtain the inheritance? What kind of inheritance is it? Oh yes, I remember that the Great Sun True Dragon said that the Memory Inheritance Hall is usually based on the cultivator's own performance to obtain the instinctive recognition of the inheritance. It is said that the more instinctive recognition one obtains, the higher the potential of the cultivator, and the more choices one can have. Back then, the Great Sun True Dragon obtained the instinctive recognition of 135 inheritances, including 9 Supreme Realm inheritances and 38 Peak Primordial Soul Realm inheritances. Unfortunately, it did not obtain the recognition of the Spirit Severing Realm inheritance. Otherwise, it might have been able to escape from the battle back then. After Ziyue released Fairy Bai Chun from the northern underworld grotto heaven, she immediately asked impatiently, I was lucky to obtain 3 inheritances by chance. Ziyue said with a smile. 3 inheritances? What inheritances are they? Then how many inheritances, instinctive consciousnesses, have you attracted? Fairy Bai Chen asked curiously. She did not know much about the rules of the True Dragon Clan. Therefore, she did not know that even the ancient True Dragon Clan had to pay a huge price to obtain a chance to enter the Memory Inheritance Hall. It required a large number of merit points. It was almost impossible to obtain 3 inheritances at once. Now that the Dragon Palace was in ruins, coupled with Bai Ziyue's earth-shattering talent and potential, the device spirit of the Memory Inheritance Hall wanted to befriend Bai Ziyue. Therefore, it could make an exception and directly obtain the 3 inheritances. Dragon Emperor Ao Shue's inheritance, the Thunder Sage Venerable's inheritance, and the Heart Sword True Venerable's inheritance. Bai Ziyue didn't try to hide it. After all, it wasn't a secret. As for how many inheritances have I attracted? 1,792. How many? 1,792? As far as I know, there are only 1,792 inheritances in the entire Memory Inheritance Hall, right? Doesn't that mean that almost all the inheritances have acknowledged you? Fairy Bai Chen exclaimed, her face full of disbelief. Even though she had long known that with Ziyue's talent and potential, he would definitely be able to obtain the recognition of many inheritances, she was still a little shocked that he could obtain the recognition of all the inheritances. Wait, as far as I know, Dragon Emperor Ao Shue and the Thunder Sage Venerable are both inheritances of Spirit Severing Realm powerhouses. As for the Heart Sword True Venerable, he seems to be a Spirit Severing Realm powerhouse as well. Does that mean that you obtained the inheritances of 3 Spirit Severing Realm powerhouses? Fairy Bai Chen could not help but widen her eyes. Not really. Dragon Emperor Ao Shue and the Thunder Sage Venerable are indeed Spirit Severing Realm inheritances, but the Heart Sword True Venerable was only at the peak of the Primordial Soul Realm when he left his inheritance, so it was only an Extreme Realm inheritance. However, this inheritance is not bad. In my opinion, its value is not inferior to the other 2 inheritances. Ziyue valued the Heart Sword mantra more. As they spoke, the 2 moved forward, carefully avoiding some places that obviously contained powerful restrictions but did not have many hidden treasures. Soon, a relatively well-preserved palace appeared in front of him. True Dragon Soul Palace? Ziyue looked at the plaque in confusion. Sensing that the restrictions inside were not strong, he rushed in without hesitation. He soon discovered that this palace was actually the place where the True Dragon Clan worshipped the Dragon Clan's soul lamp. If the soul lamp was not extinguished, it meant that the powerhouse of the Dragon Clan had not died. If the soul lamp was extinguished, it meant that the True Dragon powerhouse corresponding to the soul lamp had died. Ziyue glanced around and saw that there were many soul lamps in the palace, but almost all of them had been extinguished. Obviously, the corresponding True Dragon powerhouse had died. However, it was normal. After tens of thousands of years, even a primordial soul realm powerhouse would have died due to the exhaustion of their lifespan, not to mention the Dragon Palace that had gone through the ancient calamity and been destroyed. Even if there were true dragon powerhouses who had luckily escaped the calamity, they would naturally die due to the exhaustion of their lifespan. The True Dragon Clan was really prosperous back then. There are tens of thousands of soul lamps here. You must know that the Divine Beast Clan has always been few in number. Even if it includes countless generations of inheritances, this number is not small. Fairy Bai Chen could not help but sigh. Ziyue nodded and also realized that most of the soul lamps outside the palace were weaker True Dragon soul lamp. At least he did not see the soul lamp records of the powerhouse who had left behind the inheritance in the Memory Inheritance Palace. He could not help but turn around and enter the inner palace. The inner palace was protected by a restriction. However, such a restriction could at most defend against a full-force attack from an early-stage primordial soul realm powerhouse. It could not stop Ziyue. He just stretched out his hand and smashed it into pieces with a flash of sword light. He also successfully stepped into the inner palace. Then, his gaze fell on the many soul lamps in the inner palace, and could not help but be shocked. 5. There are actually 5 soul lamps that have not been extinguished. Fairy Bai Chen also followed in and could not help but exclaim. They knew very well what 5 soul lamps that had not been extinguished meant. If the true dragon divine beast did not fall ill, how long would its lifespan be? How long would the lifespan of an astral soul realm powerhouse be? Ziyue could not help but ask. As we all know, the Black Tortoise clan, which is also a divine beast, has the longest lifespan. If it grows normally and does not fall ill, it can live for at least 10,000 years. The True Dragon clan is also a divine beast, so its lifespan is naturally longer. Although it is slightly weaker than the Black Tortoise clan, it still has a lifespan of 8,000 years. These 8,000 years are actually the time from their infancy to adulthood and then to old age. It is also the time they do not cultivate and just grow normally. In fact, if they cultivate true techniques and continue to refine their bloodline, their lifespan will naturally be extended. Generally speaking, true dragons at the primordial soul realm can live for more than 20,000 years, and the limit should be about 30,000 years. As for astral soul realm powerhouses, with my knowledge, I dare not guess. Fairy Bai Chen said with a solemn expression. It has been more than 30,000 years since the arrival of the extraterrestrial demons and the destruction of the Dragon Palace. And these 5 soul lamps are still lit. As Bai Ziyue spoke, he was truly astonished. He could not help but exclaim, there are at least 5 true dragon experts still alive in the dragon tribe. Furthermore, there are 5 of them. They are all at least at the spirit severing stage. Even though he already had a certain guess about the true dragon clan's deep heritage, he still felt a sense of horror at this moment. 5 living astral soul realm powerhouses of the dragon clan. Just by thinking about it, Bai Ziyue knew that there was something unusual about it. He had thought that the true dragon clan had been destroyed, at least since the ancient war in the astral realm. But now it seemed that there must be a big secret hidden in the true dragon clan. One had to know that now that tens of thousands of years had passed, no one knew what realm these true dragon powerhouses had reached. Chapter 756. Was it the spirit-severing stage or above? Ziyue stopped thinking about it, but his gaze quickly fell on the names of the 5 soul lamps, and his pupils shrank again. Ao Tian Dragon Emperor, Ao Qiubai Dragon Emperor, Ao Shui Dragon Emperor, Ao Ziqing Dragon Mother, Ao Pingpeng Dragon Emperor. These are all experts of the Dragon Clan. Among them, Ao Tian is said to be the 9th generation Dragon Emperor of the Dragon Clan, and he has lived for 70,000 years. Ao Qiubai is the 13th generation Dragon Emperor. Ao Shui Dragon Emperor is the existence who created the divine dragon world-defying technique. Ao Ziqing Dragon Mother is a rare female dragon who achieved the Tao, and she once dominated the world. As for Ao Pingpeng, he is the Dragon Emperor expert who is said to have died when the extraterrestrial demons descended tens of thousands of years ago. I didn't expect him to not die, and he is still alive. Ziyue exclaimed. For some reason, he also felt a sense of reverence. The 5 spirit-severing stage experts, especially some of them, had lived in the world for an extremely long time, and their strength was definitely extraordinary. It was very likely that they had reached the level above the spirit-severing stage. If one called their names directly, such experts would vaguely sense it and have unfathomable abilities. I didn't expect the Dragon Clan to still have experts alive. It's just that for some reason, these experts haven't returned for tens of thousands of years. Otherwise, the Dragon Clan wouldn't have withered to this day and become like this. Fairy Bai Chen said with emotion. Nodding silently, Ziyue still had some reverence in his heart and didn't wantonly plunder this place. Of course, there were no secret treasures left in this true Dragon Soul Palace. Some decorations might be expensive, but they couldn't tempt him. Thus, he quickly retreated. As soon as he stepped out of the true Dragon Soul Palace, Ziyue was inexplicably shocked. He looked into the distance in the direction of the two spirits severing stage experts' corpses and whispered, "The war has finally begun. It seems that all the experts gathered in the Dragon Subduing Hall this time have also arrived." After saying that, he looked at his attribute panel. Sure enough, he saw that the number of spirit energy on his attribute panel was soaring rapidly. In that battlefield there were too many experts. Not only did it include countless Essence Soul and Golden Core experts of various clans, but there were also nearly 2,000 black-scaled lizards. I believe that after the end of the war, it won't be difficult for my soul energy to reach over 1 billion. Ziyue waited expectantly, but he didn't approach. 2,000 black-scaled lizard demons, including at least 10 black-scaled lizard demon monarchs at the Essence Soul realm, was not something that could be dealt with in a short period of time. Let them fight for a while longer. Ziyue followed Fairy by Chen's directions and soon arrived in front of another huge golden pagoda. The golden pagoda landed on the ground. Before it even got close, a majestic and heavy aura gushed out from it. Most importantly, the real dragon coercion and demonic killing power that were everywhere in the Dragon Emperor Palace seemed to be retreating in front of the Golden Pagoda, and they could not be felt at all. 9 Dragons Pagoda, by Ziyue muttered in a low voice with a solemn expression. The 9 Dragons Pagoda is a treasure of the dragon race that is not inferior to the Memory Inheritance Hall. According to the Great Sun True Dragon, the 9 Dragons Pagoda was accidentally obtained by a top expert of the dragon race 100,000 years ago. It was placed in Dragon Emperor Palace and has been there for more than 100,000 years. The 9 Dragons Pagoda tests a cultivator's potential and true combat strength. Apart from one's own strength, one cannot use it in the pagoda. You can only fight according to your own strength. It is said that there is a potential ranking in the 9 Dragons Pagoda. The higher the ranking, the greater the reward. Back then, the Great Sun True Dragon was ranked 3,598. His potential is already considered good. Over the past 100,000 years, too many dragon race experts, and even other experts of other clans, have entered the 9 Dragons Pagoda. Those who can rank in the top 10,000 are considered geniuses. Fairy Bai Chen couldn't help but explain. Are there any rewards? Ziyue asked curiously. Of course. This 9 Dragons Pagoda is said to be a treasure specially refined by an ancient expert for his disciples. There are also many treasures left in it. However, after such a long time, many of the treasures have been taken away. I don't know what else is left. Fairy Bai Chen replied. Ziyue understood that although Fairy Bai Chen had stayed in the Dragon Palace for a long time, she was an outsider after all. There were many secrets that she wouldn't know unless the Great Sun True Dragon spoke. Therefore, after putting it into the northern underworld grotto heaven again, Ziyue truly stepped into the 9 Dragons Pagoda. Just like in the Memory Inheritance Hall, the moment Ziyue entered the 9 Dragons Pagoda, a human-shaped phantom suddenly appeared. It was the 9 Dragons Pagoda's artifact spirit. However, this artifact spirit looked much younger than the old man in the Memory Inheritance Hall. He looked like a middle-aged Taoist. After such a long time, I didn't expect that someone would come to challenge the Kunwu Pagoda again. An emotional voice immediately came out of the artifact spirit's mouth. Kunwu Pagoda? Isn't it the 9 Dragons Pagoda? Ziyue was stunned and asked. 9 Dragons Pagoda? That's just the name of the dragon race. In fact, this pagoda was refined by Taoist Kunwu, so it should be called the Kunwu Pagoda. Of course, I don't care about this name, and neither does Taoist Kunwu. Therefore, you can call it the 9 Dragons Pagoda or the Kunwu Pagoda. The artifact spirit chuckled and continued, As for me, I'm the artifact spirit of the Kunwu Pagoda, and also a wisp of Taoist Kunwu's soul. Therefore, you can also call me Taoist Kunwu. Senior Kunwu. Bai Zue cupped his hands and bowed before asking, "Does the Kunwu Pagoda still have an owner?" Taoist Kunwu had already fallen when I entered the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Emperor had recognized me as his master, but 10,000 years ago, the Dragon Emperor had also fallen, so I'm still in a masterless state. The artifact spirit said lightly. Then, may I know what I have to do to make you recognize me as your master? Ziyue nodded and wasn't surprised. It was very normal for a spirit treasure to have several masters. After all, compared to the lifespan of a cultivator, a spirit treasure could exist for tens of thousands of years. Not to mention, there was always a lot of killing between cultivators, and the speed of death was much faster. You want me to recognize you as my master? The Kunwu artifact spirit asked and immediately replied, "It's not impossible. As long as you can rank in the top 10 of the Kunwu Pagoda, I'm willing to recognize you as my master." As long as I rank in the top 10, you're willing to recognize me as your master? Ziyue's eyes lit up. If it was like the Memory Inheritance Hall's artifact spirit, which required the bloodline of a true dragon to be recognized as its master, he really couldn't think of anything. However, if it was just a test of ranking, his mind immediately became active. He was still somewhat confident in his own combat strength. However, I have to remind you that although the ranking in the Kunwu Pagoda has nothing to do with the realm of the cultivators who enter, and also has nothing to do with the strength of the artifact, those who can enter first to participate in the test are definitely not weak. They are at least in the Golden Core realm. Currently, there are a total of 37,423 cultivators who have entered to participate in the test. Among them, there is no lack of peerless experts who are invincible in the same realm. It is extremely difficult to stand out among them. Those who can enter the top 10,000 are already considered geniuses. If they can enter the top 1,000, it is enough to look down on their peers and be called peerless. It is also not difficult to cultivate to the peak of the essence soul realm step by step. Those who were able to enter the top 100 could be called demon-like geniuses. They could dominate the current generation, and there was an extremely high chance that they could cultivate to the ultimate level of the primordial spirit realm. As for the top 10, if you have some understanding of the cultivation world of the star boundary, you will definitely be able to discover that apart from one or two who died midway, those who are ranked in the top 10 all reached the severed soul realm. As the Kunwu artifact spirit spoke, it looked at a huge stone tablet in the middle of the Kunwu Pagoda. Ziyue followed the artifact spirit's gaze and saw that the names of the experts who had entered the Kunwu Pagoda were recorded on the stone tablet. Although Bai Ziyue did not know the names of those who were ranked in the top 10, he knew that they were all the founding ancestors of superforces or the founding ancestors of resurgence. In the future, their achievements would at least be at the level of the spirit severing stage. Dragon Emperor Ao Shui and Heart Sword True Venerable are ranked in the top 10. Dragon Emperor Ao Shui is ranked 5th, while Heart Sword True Venerable is ranked 7th. These two were both immortal Tao experts who had stepped into the spirit severing stage. One of them had created the divine dragon world defying technique, while the other had created the Heart Sword mantra. Both of them could be said to be extremely talented and powerful. In the end, both of them failed to enter the top 3? Ziyue soon saw two relatively familiar names and was shocked. He had just obtained the inheritances of these two experts and knew about their deeds. Naturally, he knew how powerful they were. In the end, even they failed to enter the top 10 of the Kunwu Pagoda. One could imagine how difficult it was. For the first time, he felt a sense of pressure in his heart. His confidence was not as strong as it was at the beginning. The Kunwu Pagoda will judge your potential and comprehension according to your actual age and combat strength. With Taoist Kunwu's strength back then, no matter how deep you hide, he will be able to see through it. Therefore, the rankings on the Kunwu Pagoda are very accurate. By the way, I have to remind you that external means are useless in the Kunwu Pagoda. If you have any treasures or spiritual treasures that can increase your strength, they will not be of use at all. In short, all external means are useless. Of course, your natal treasure is compatible with your soul, so you can use it. Kunwu Artifact Spirit continued. I understand. Ziyue nodded. Fairy Bai Chun had already explained it to him, so he was naturally aware. This was actually a good thing for him, because when he fought, he never relied on external means and did not rely on Dharma treasures very much. The only thing that could be considered an external force was the Dark North Flying Sword, which was also his natal flying sword. It was not restricted by the Kunwu Pagoda and allowed him to perfectly display his combat strength. Go on in. The Kunwu Pagoda will naturally match you with an opponent according to your immortal technique realm. Kunwu Artifact Spirit said with a smile, if you can really enter the top 10, I will acknowledge you as my master. Then let's wait. Ziyue's face turned solemn as he walked directly into the depths of the Kunwu Pagoda. Soon, he arrived in front of a simple and unadorned door. Before he could do anything, the door opened automatically. Ziyue directly stepped in. His vision blurred, and he felt that he had entered a vast and boundless space. Buzz. Immediately, some information about the Kunwu Pagoda flowed into his mind. There were rules and the calculation method of the potential ranking. Then, Ziyue moved forward and walked to the center of the space. With a thought, he used the attribute panel to restore his core essence to its peak. Then, he used the heaven patching technique, the god's Dharma body, the gravity shadow domain, and many other methods to increase his combat strength to the limit. There is no doubt about the preciousness of a numinous treasure. Even the weakest numinous treasure's strength surpasses that of a supreme-grade essence soul treasure, and its power is unpredictable. Not to mention a numinous treasure like the Kunwu Pagoda that has automatically grown for more than 100,000 years. If I want to control this numinous treasure, I have to pass through all the obstacles in the Kunwu Pagoda and reach the top 10 in history. Although it will be difficult, I am determined to get it. No matter what, I have to give it a try. Ziyue's battle intent rose and he was faintly excited. This was the closest he had ever been to obtaining a numinous treasure. Although his natal flying sword had spirituality and had a high chance of becoming a numinous treasure in the future, it was still not a numinous treasure. Naturally, it was not as shocking and exciting as a real numinous treasure. Buzz. The void trembled. Then, he saw a powerhouse with 4 arms on his back and a hideous head pouncing over. It's coming. Ziyue knew that this was an opponent that the Kunwu Pagoda had automatically created by borrowing the power of the pagoda's origin source. This was a powerhouse at the peak of the Golden Core realm that was on par with Ziyue. His 4 arms were supporting weapons and emitting a cold, murderous aura as they shot out together. Peak of the Golden Core realm? That's not very strong. Ziyue thought to himself as he controlled the gravity shadow domain to spread out. Buzz, 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 the domain landed directly on the powerhouse's body. The speed of the powerhouse that was rushing over slowed down instantly. His body seemed to be unable to withstand the sudden gravitational pressure and directly staggered. Even the battle weapons that were shot out seemed soft and weak under the influence of gravity, and their power was greatly reduced. Ziyue's true combat strength was too strong. Although he was only at the peak of the Golden Core realm, the level of his strength was extremely high. In addition, he had deduced all the great divine abilities to the extreme and cultivated them to perfection. There was really no room for improvement. Naturally, when such a level of strength landed on an existence of the same level, it would cause an effect that was as easy as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Then, he pointed his finger and a ray of starlight rushed out, killing the first opponent that appeared. Chapter 757. The first opponent's strength was only equivalent to the third tier of the peak of the Golden Core realm. Naturally, I was able to deal with him easily. Ziyue muttered to himself. He was not careless. He knew that the test in the Kunwu Golden Pagoda would not be that simple. There would definitely be an endless stream of opponents waiting for him to fight fiercely in the future. As expected, after he dealt with his first opponent, he felt a blur in front of him and the void changed. He was once again in a vast space. Then buzz. Two cultivators dressed in white robes appeared in the distance and immediately discovered Ziyue's traces. Their eyes lit up and their figures flashed as they surrounded him. The two cultivators seemed to have mastered a combination technique. Their combat prowess was also much stronger than the opponent Ziyue had encountered before. When they attacked, the void froze. Even the world seemed to have frozen, giving off a feeling that there was no way to avoid them. These two should be equivalent to the first tier of the peak of the Golden Core realm. Ziyue compared and radiated the shadow gravity domain before he struck out two star-shattering fingers. Poof! Poof! The two experts at the first tier of the peak of the Golden Core realm were defeated. Then, there were 4 existences comparable to the Golden Core realm. 8 experts comparable to the half-step Primordial Soul realm. Although these opponents cooperated well and attacked ruthlessly when facing Ziyue, they did not last long in the hands of Ziyue and were easily killed by him. Indeed, the difficulty is getting higher and higher. If it was an ordinary Golden Core realm expert, even the 4 Golden Core realm experts who were comparable to the Golden Core realm experts would not be able to resist, let alone the 8 experts who were comparable to the half-step Primordial Soul realm experts. Most importantly, although these opponents were like me and could not use external forces, they had different methods and were extremely exquisite, as if they were in accordance with the Great Tao. They were really terrifyingly strong. Taking advantage of the break after another battle, Ziyue could not help but sigh. His strength was extraordinary and he could easily deal with these opponents. However, if they were all Golden Core realm cultivators like him, the outcome of the battle would probably be completely different. The Golden Core realm experts were not weak, and there were very few who could defeat them in the same realm. Killing them would be even more difficult, not to mention that there were 4 of them working together. In other words, under normal circumstances, most cultivators of the same level would not be able to pass this stage. In the end, not only did Ziyue clear this level, he even defeated the combined forces of 8 half-step Primordial Soul realm experts on the next level. The next level should be the true Primordial Spirit realm expert. Furthermore, it's very likely that 16 Primordial Soul realm experts will join forces. As Ziyue thought to himself, he also felt some pressure. If 16 Essence Soul realm experts were to join forces and form a formation, the threat they posed would not be weaker than a mid-stage Essence Soul realm expert, or even a late-stage Essence Soul realm expert. Fortunately, I should be able to handle it. I wonder what my position in the Kunwu Pagoda would be now that I've passed through 4 waves of encirclement? Ziyue guessed that his current ranking wouldn't be low, but he wasn't confident that he could enter the top 10. After all, the people he was competing with were not experts of the same generation, nor were they cultivators of the same level. They were countless outstanding talents in the past hundreds of thousands of years. Among those people, there were peerless geniuses who were hard to find, and there were also experts whose strength had long reached the peak of the Essence Soul realm. There were even terrifying existences who would reach the spirit-severing stage in the future and become mighty figures of the immortal Tao. Ziyue naturally had to do his best to compete with those of the same generation. Outside the Kunwu Pagoda, the Kunwu artifact spirit looked at the ranking stone tablet with obvious shock on its usually calm face. So fast. I didn't expect him to pass through the first round of tests so quickly. It seems that he's not weak. He also finished off the second round very quickly. With his cultivation level, The second round should have been experts at the peak of the Golden Core realm. I didn't expect them to not be able to stop him. Among those of the same generation, those who can do this can almost enter the top 10,000 of the Kunwu Pagoda. He can be considered a genius. The Kunwu artifact spirit was not surprised at first. Such a performance might be considered good in the eyes of others, but to it was just so. After all, it had seen too many experts and super geniuses. In the past hundreds of thousands of years, it only took a second look at those who entered the top 100 and had the chance to step into the spirit severing stage. However, it soon noticed something unusual on the stone tablet. His ranking was high. It was much higher than it had expected. At this moment, he had already entered the top 100. He only passed through 2 rounds of attacks and his ranking is already in the top 100? He reached the 97th rank? It couldn't help but widen its eyes. Then, it quickly understood the key point. Age. To be able to have such a performance, other than the factor of strength, there was only one other factor, age. Ziyue's age was definitely much younger than the other experts of the same cultivation level. That's the only reason why his ranking is so high. Judging from my understanding of the Kunwu Pagoda, his age is actually less than 50 years old? It quickly calculated, and its breathing suddenly became hurried. It was stunned. It was simply unbelievable. To be able to cultivate to the peak of the Golden Core stage in less than 50 years old, he would be considered an extremely monstrous genius in any era. Not only did Ziyue cultivate to the peak of the Golden Core stage, but he also had such powerful combat strength. It was even more astonishing. He passed through the 3rd floor again? The opponents on the 3rd floor were 4 Golden Core monarchs. In the past, only the top cultivators of the generation could pass through. Moreover, every one of them would be very difficult. In the end, he also took a very short time, only a dozen breaths from start to finish. Soon, the Kunwu artifact spirit was stunned again, and it could no longer maintain its calm mood. Then, it looked at the ranking on the stone tablet and revealed a trace of understanding. As expected, his ranking has entered the top 10. He's currently ranked 7th, pushing down the Heart Sword True Venerable by 1 position. According to the previous promise, entering the top 10 means that I have to acknowledge him as my master. With his potential, he's qualified to be able to enter the top 10 of the Kunwu Golden Pagoda. As long as everything goes well, his future achievements will definitely not be weak. Although he might not be able to reach the peak of the spirit severing stage as compared to the Kunwu Taoist, it shouldn't be difficult for him to break through from the peak of the primordial soul stage to the spirit severing stage. However, his current strength is still a little weak after all. Even if his combat strength is considered strong in the same realm, if he encounters a stronger primordial soul stage expert, it's very likely that he'll be in trouble. The Kunwu artifact spirit hesitated. It acknowledged Ziyue's aptitude and potential, but it was still a little worried about whether he could protect it and grow smoothly. After all, if other experts knew that the Kunwu Golden Pagoda was in the hands of Ziyue, a cultivator who was only at the peak of the Golden Core stage, it would cause a huge commotion. There would definitely be late-stage Primordial Soul Stage, Peak Primordial Soul Stage, and even Ultimate Primordial Soul Stage experts fighting for it. The Kunwu artifact spirit believed that its reputation in the entire cultivation world of the star boundary was very well known. It was also far better than ordinary spirit treasures. However, it soon no longer had such worries. The reason being that it suddenly realized that Bai Ziyue would soon face the next wave of opponents. Just like before, Bai Ziyue was able to defeat the next wave of opponents with ease. 8 half-step primordial soul stage experts were dealt with by him so quickly. The Kunwu artifact spirit was shocked and looked at the ranking stone tablet. Indeed, it saw that Ziyue had already reached the top and was in first place. The combined strength of 8 half-step primordial soul stage experts is comparable to that of a peak early-stage primordial soul stage expert. It's equivalent to this human cultivator using his own strength to kill immortals and slay primordial soul stage experts? The Kunwu artifact spirit knew very well that the legendary immortals who went against immortals in the outside world actually relied more on the advantages of Dharma treasures. Only with such treasures could one use external forces to slay early-stage primordial soul stage experts with the combat strength of a peak golden core stage expert. However, it was very clear that external forces could not be used in the Kunwu Golden Pagoda. Therefore, many so-called geniuses who were famous in the outside world and had the strength to slay immortals often had nowhere to hide and were not ranked high here. However, Ziyue's immortals against immortals were real and had relied entirely on his own strength. Extraordinary talent, unlimited potential, and the ability to slay immortals against immortals. Most importantly, he is not even 50 years old, and his comprehension must have reached a shocking level. If such an expert does not acknowledge me as his master, wouldn't I miss out on the opportunity? At this moment, the Kunwu artifact spirit was rather impatient. It also completely acknowledged Ziyue and wanted to acknowledge him as its master. They're here. Ziyue looked at the group of figures that suddenly appeared in the void in the distance, and his heart skipped a beat. There are indeed 16 of them. 16 early-stage primordial soul stage expert. This time, it's a group of experts from the demon clan. Although they come in different shapes and sizes, they all have high-level bloodlines. At least in terms of bloodline aura, they are not weaker than the Black Flood Dragon clan and the Bone Kuan clan. In other words, although they are all early-stage primordial soul stage experts, their combat strength is at least equivalent to the peak of the early-stage primordial soul stage, which is the first tier of the early-stage primordial soul stage. Ziyue felt slightly excited. Even though he had killed many primordial soul stage experts, this was the first time he had encountered so many primordial soul stage experts attacking at the same time. Kill! Immediately, the group of primordial soul stage demons also noticed Ziyue, and all of them charged toward Ziyue without hesitation. Moreover, they cooperated with each other very well and had mastered a type of formation that allowed their domains to radiate at the same time and superimpose on each other, greatly amplifying the effects. When they landed on Ziyue's body, Ziyue felt his body tense up and found it difficult to breathe. However, when Ziyue's shadow gravity domain radiated out, it finally swept away the superimposed domain power that landed on his body and blocked it outside. Such domain power is not enough to affect me. Ziyue muttered to himself as his body moved and displayed the thunderbolt escape light. Instantly, his body seemed to flash like lightning as he quickly charged out and took the initiative to meet the many experts. Then, he displayed one perfect great divine ability after another. Grand Taboo Spirit Technique, 5 Emperor Heaven Sealing Sword Technique, Heaven and Earth in the Sleeve. One after another, great divine abilities of the restraints separated the few primordial soul stage experts. Then, he used the 9 Extinction Divine Sword Technique. Once the 9 Extinction Divine Sword Technique was used, it immediately evolved into a terrifying sword light. As the sword light streaked across, the void could not withstand it and shattered. It was so fast that even the primordial soul stage experts could not figure out its trajectory. Chi, a great demon that looked like a giant wolf, did not even have time to react before its head was pierced through. Then, the flying sword did not diminish in strength as it swept across the body of a great demon that looked like a giant snake and was cut into 2 by the flying sword. The terrifying power of destruction flowed along its body and slowly wiped out its life force. Finally, the flying sword tapped on the head of a great demon that looked like a giant eagle. Even though it was just the residual power, its power was terrifying beyond compare and exceeded the limits of what the giant eagle could withstand. Whoosh, following a series of soft noises, its body was crushed into pieces bit by bit. Ziyue's expression did not change as he killed 3 primordial soul stage great demons with a single strike. He was not surprised at all. With a tap of his finger, another attack was launched. This time, it was the great magnetic slash that he had raised to the level of a perfect great divine ability. Silently, the black silk thread seemed to be able to cut heaven and earth apart as it flashed past quickly. 2 great demons that had just broken free from the spirit-sealing light of the grand taboo spirit technique had no time to dodge at all. They were cut into 2 by the black silk thread. Using the great magnetic slash with my current strength is at least equivalent to the full force attack of a mid-stage primordial soul stage expert. Even if the physical defense of these 2 great demons is not weak, they will not be able to withstand it. Ziyue's thoughts flashed as the lightning on his body suddenly flashed. Chi. He quickly disappeared on the spot. Rumble. In the next moment, the attacks had already landed on the spot where he had been standing. It was the other great demons that had finally reacted and quickly attacked him. Techniques were used one after another, and they were extremely dense as they enveloped heaven and earth. Fortunately, Ziyue's speed was unparalleled and faster than these primordial soul stage great demons. Otherwise, it would have been difficult for him to dodge. However, there were simply too many primordial soul stage great demons. Even though he had killed 5 of them in the first wave, the remaining great demons quickly broke through the seal of his great divine ability and surrounded him. Boom, boom, boom. All kinds of attacks were launched at the same time. Even though Ziyue's movement technique was extremely strong, it was difficult for him to dodge all of them. Fortunately, Ziyue's defensive power was also extraordinary. The defensive power of his perfect great divine ability, 5 Emperor Royal Robe, had also surpassed the early stage primordial soul stage and reached the mid-stage primordial soul stage. Even if 1 or 2 attacks landed on it, it would not be shaken at all. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ziyue quickly attacked. 1 sword to break all techniques. Great magnetic slash. 9 extinction divine sword. Great magnetic divine light. From time to time, he would cast a series of restraining great divine abilities and profound technique. Poof, poof, poof. Instantly, one by one, the primordial soul stage great demons were killed and turned into spiritual balls that dissipated into thin air. Chapter 758. Huff, huff. This battle was indeed rather difficult. Even the power of my core essence was nearly depleted after using so many techniques. However, at least it was a close call. Ziyue could not help but heave a sigh of relief when he saw the last essence soul realm demon dissipate. None of these demons were weak. Even if they could not block Ziyue's attacks, they still caused him a lot of trouble and made him rather exhausted. In this battle, he had used all his techniques before he managed to kill the essence soul realm demons one by one. Did he pass this wave again? Previously, when he had just passed the 4th round, he had already reached the top and was ranked first in the Kunwu Golden Pagoda. Now that he has passed this round again, although his ranking has not changed and he is still ranked first, the meaning behind it is definitely different. In the outside world, the Kunwu artifact spirit was extremely shocked. It was already shocked that he had reached the top previously. But this time, he actually managed to pass through another stage. It was as if his opponent, who was already at the 1st level, had risen by countless levels. After all, even if someone had passed the 4th round in the Kunwu Golden Pagoda, it was almost impossible for them to pass the 5th round. This was because not only did the strength of the experts in the 5th round soar directly from the half-step essence soul realm to the essence soul realm, even the number of experts had doubled to 16. The difference between the two was too great. However, even with such an increase in difficulty, it still could not stop this human cultivator. This can only be done by someone who has at least the combat strength of a late-stage essence soul realm expert. The Kunwu artifact spirit compared Ziyue's cultivation level and quickly came to a conclusion. However, it was wild with joy. Ziyue's cultivation level was only at the peak of the Golden Core realm, but his combat strength was comparable to that of a late-stage Essence Soul Realm expert. Such strength and potential were enough to look down on the world. Not only in the star boundary, but even in the many realms outside the star boundary, they were definitely among the most monstrous geniuses. In the Kunwu artifact spirit's opinion, it was extremely likely that he would be able to step into the spirit severing stage in the future if everything went well. When it thought of this, it was actually glad. It was glad that it had the opportunity to follow such an expert. Ziyue didn't want to waste time, so he directly used his soul energy to restore his Jindan essence to its peak. Then, with a thought, he took a step forward. His vision blurred, and he immediately stepped into the next trial. The 6th floor. Is there only one person this time? Ziyue had already foreseen the situation where he was about to be besieged by 32 experts at the early stage of the primordial soul realm and above. However, he did not expect to see an old man sitting cross-legged in the distant void with his back facing him. His soul is complete, and his strength is pure and tyrannical. His only weakness is his physical body, which is comparable to a demonic beast of the same level. Most importantly, he had cultivated his divine abilities to the limit of what could be achieved in the same realm. I didn't expect that such a person would appear in this world. The elder's voice was filled with emotion. Then, he paused and continued, "You blocked my sword. If you can block my sword, you'll be qualified to go to Kunwu Mountain and obtain my true inheritance and many precious treasures." As he spoke, the elder slowly turned around, revealing an appearance that was exactly the same as the Kunwu weapon spirit that Ziyue had seen previously. It was the wisp of spirit that Kunwu Taoist had left behind. He didn't expect that there would be a part of it in the Kunwu Golden Pagoda. Then, a sword light swept up. Fast. It was extremely fast. The elder's body didn't seem to have moved, but Ziyue already saw a wisp of sword light blooming in front of him. This wisp of sword light was incomparably beautiful. It was as if the clouds in the sky were shining with a myriad of colors, illuminating the heavens and the earth, causing a pure and beautiful painting to appear in the sky. Unknowingly, Ziyue was deeply immersed in it, unable to extricate himself. Pu. However, just as Ziyue was about to be immersed in it, his eyelids twitched violently. The golden soul silk in his mind circulated rapidly, not only covering his soul, but also his physical body. It was the effect of the golden soul silk that allowed Ziyue to wake up in time from his intoxication. He instinctively flew back, and at the same time, a flying sword quickly flew out. This sword was also extremely fast. It was incomparably bright, and when it rushed out, it seemed like it was going to shatter everything in the world. It was the strongest attack that he had mastered, the 9 Extinction Divine Sword. Pu. The sword light of the 9 Extinction Divine Sword collided with the Elder's sword light. It was like a needle against an awl, and a special vibration sound was produced. Not enough. The power of my 9 Extinction Divine Sword is still not enough. Ziyue almost instantly judged that his flying sword seemed to be unable to block the Elder's sword light. The Jindan energy in his body didn't stop, and it surged again, all of it surging into the second Tao technique seed. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. A dazzling divine light was then pointed out by him. It superimposed on the Elder's sword light. It was the Tao technique that he had used, the primordial magnetic divine light. In his hands, the 2 gates had both reached the peak of the primordial spirit realm. The terrifying power of the attack landed on the opponent's tough and solid sword light and finally blocked it completely, causing the wisp of sword light to dissipate completely. Huff huff, so strong. Ziyue panted heavily. This attack was too strong. Although he had blocked it in time, He was very clear that the Elder's sword was terrifying. Not only was its power shocking, far surpassing the full power of the 9 Extinction Divine Sword, but the sword light also contained a trace of the mystery of the primordial soul attack. It seemed to be able to intoxicate one, and completely immerse oneself in the perfect and pure sword light. If not for the Great Spirit Golden Soul Silk in his soul, and the special mystery of the Great Spirit Golden Soul Silk that pulled him out from the fluctuations of the Elder's primordial soul attack, he wouldn't have been able to resist at all and would have been hit by the Elder's flying sword. Impressive. Even a peak primordial soul realm cultivator would find it difficult to block this attack, but I didn't expect that it would be blocked by a peak golden core realm cultivator. A perfect soul indeed has a strong defense against the interference of the primordial soul. And the most important thing is that your soul actually has the great soul golden thread. This really surprised me. However, this is also good. My inheritance, my everything, can only be obtained by someone with a peerless talent like you. The old man sighed in admiration, and his gaze immediately became kind. Then, he pointed his finger. This finger seemed to be slow, as if it was casually raised and then dropped. However, Ziyue felt that there was no way to avoid it, as if even if he used all his strength, he wouldn't be able to move it at all. Then, he felt the finger land on his head. Buzz. A message quickly flowed in his mind. Immediately afterward, he saw the old man smile and turn into a ball of spiritual light, completely dissipating into thin air. At this moment, Ziyue had a feeling. This wisp of Kunwu Taoist's soul seemed to have completed some kind of obsession, and had completely dissipated and would never appear again. Kunwu Mountain? A starry sky route map? Ziyue didn't have time to sigh before he was attracted by the information in his mind. Among them, a complete starry sky route map was clearly recorded. With the help of the route map, one could directly go to Kunwu Mountain, where Kunwu Taoist was located. From there, one could obtain the inheritance and treasures that belonged to Kunwu Taoist according to the method in his mind. I didn't expect that there would be such an unexpected gain in this Kunwu Golden Pagoda. Ziyue's face revealed a trace of surprise. He knew that this Kunwu Taoist was not only a legendary powerhouse whose strength had reached the spirit-severing stage, but he was also an existence who had gone extremely far in the spirit-severing stage. According to the Kunwu artifact spirit, he seemed to have reached the peak of the spirit-severing stage and was really incomparably powerful. The inheritance of a powerhouse at the peak of the spirit-severing stage is definitely far better than the 3 inheritances that I obtained before. Not to mention the few treasures that he left behind. To be valued so highly by such a powerhouse, they are definitely extremely powerful. The richness of the treasures far surpasses that of this dragon palace. Ziyue muttered in his heart, and he was looking forward to it. There doesn't seem to be any more tests? Could it be that I have reached the top? Ziyue waited quietly for a while and realized that the next test did not descend. He also felt that he had completely displayed his strength and potential. If he still couldn't enter the top 10 of the Kunwu Golden Pagoda, he would have nothing to say. Therefore, he thought in his heart. Soon the void changed. Then, he found that he had inexplicably appeared outside the Kunwu Golden Pagoda as if he had never stepped in at all. His expression changed, and he soon saw the Kunwu artifact spirit that had been waiting outside the pagoda. "What's my ranking?" Seeing this, Ziyue couldn't wait to ask. His gaze also quickly fell on the huge stone tablet. "You're ranked first in the rankings. Reaching first place, surpassing countless geniuses in the past tens of thousands of years, occupying the highest position," the Kunwu artifact spirit said in a complicated tone. It knew that not only did the human cultivator in front of it reach the top, but he had also reached the top when he passed the 4th level. In the end, not only did he pass the 5th level, he even saw the greatest secret of the Kunwu Golden Pagoda on the 6th level, the avatar of the Kunwu Taoist. Furthermore, He even obtained the recognition of the other party and obtained the opportunity to inherit all the treasures and inheritances left behind by the other party. This was what shocked it the most, because even the powerhouse who was ranked first previously did not have the chance to see the avatar of the Kunwu Taoist in the Kunwu Golden Pagoda. Even the dragon powerhouse who obtained the Kunwu Golden Pagoda back then did not manage to touch the mystery of the avatar of the Kunwu Taoist, even though he forcefully refined it. In the end, Ziyue did it. He even obtained the true recognition of the other party. I'm ranked first? Not only did I reach the top 10, but I'm also ranked first? Ziyue was pleasantly surprised. He also felt that it was natural. He had a very strong understanding of himself. He was very clear that cultivators of the same generation could not be compared to him. Previously, in the Kunwu Golden Pagoda, he had also fully displayed his strength. He was worried that there would be some special performance among the powerhouses who had passed the Kunwu Golden Pagoda in history. After all, they were too famous. He was afraid that he would not be able to enter the top 10, which was why he had been nervous. Now that he thought about it carefully, those who could reach the spirit-severing stage were indeed extraordinary, but his achievements with the help of the attribute panel were even more heaven-defying. How could he be weaker than them? It was very likely that he would surpass them in the future. Spirit-severing stage? Or above the spirit-severing stage? These were not problems. Congratulations! You're ranked first. Please leave your name first so that I can carve it on the stone tablet. The Kunwu artifact spirit's tone was much more respectful as it said, "Leave your name so that other people who want to adventure in the future can also see the gap between us. Only then will they have the motivation to strive forward." My name is Taoist North Ming. Ziyue nodded and said, Taoist North Ming. The Kunwu artifact spirit nodded solemnly and pointed its finger at the top of the stone tablet. Ziyue's Taoist name, Taoist North Ming, was written at the top. Not only was the font much larger than the other names, but it was also more dazzling. On the other hand, the rankings of the other cultivators in history had all moved down by one place. Many people's names became ordinary and were ranked out of the top 10, top 100, top 1,000, top 10,000. Oh right, I'm now ranked in the top 10 on this stone tablet, and I'm ranked first. Then what I said before. Immediately after, Ziyue looked at the Kunwu artifact spirit. I've already opened the core of the spiritual treasure. Master, you can plant a soul imprint at any time and let me acknowledge you as my master and be under your command. The Kunwu artifact spirit said without hesitation. It was even a little impatient. Oh! Hearing this, Ziyue's face immediately revealed a hint of surprise. Without hesitation, he pointed out a soul imprint and placed it on the Kunwu artifact spirit. The Kunwu artifact spirit didn't dodge at all. Instead, it faced by Ziyue's soul imprint head-on and placed the soul imprint in the deepest part of its spirituality core, the core of its numinous treasure. At the same time, Ziyue immediately felt a connection between himself and the entire Kunwu Golden Pagoda. It was unbelievably smooth. But that was the truth. After all, a spiritual treasure recognizing its master was different from a cultivator refining it with his blood or other forceful methods. It was not only in terms of refining speed, but also in terms of control and the power of the spiritual treasure that could be unleashed. It was far superior to other methods. At this moment, he could control the entire Kunwu Golden Pagoda with just a thought. Moreover, he could enter any corner of the spiritual treasure without any hindrance and clearly understand all the functions of the spiritual treasure. It was as if it was his natal Dharma treasure that he could command with ease. As long as he wanted, he could even erase the spiritual intelligence of the Kunwu artifact spirit in front of him and turn it back into an artifact spirit that only had spirituality but no spiritual intelligence. However, he naturally would not do so rashly. Chapter 759. A spirit treasure that only had spirituality and no intelligence would naturally be inferior to a spirit treasure with intelligence in terms of power and function. This was because spirit treasures with intelligence had a fundamental function that was highly valued by all cultivators. That was to automatically protect the owner. When danger arrived and the owner was unable to react in time due to encountering a powerful enemy or was unable to take precautions in advance, spirit treasures with intelligence would often be able to automatically react and protect the owner. Unknowingly, it would allow the cultivator to be more stable. It was impossible for spirit treasures without intelligence to do so. This Kunwu Golden Pagoda can actually attack. Is it a great treasure that can attack and defend? Soon after, he realized that the Kunwu Golden Pagoda was not only used to test a cultivator's potential as he had imagined, but it could also be used as an attack. If he encountered danger, he could even stay inside the Kunwu Golden Pagoda and borrow the strength of the Kunwu Golden Pagoda to block countless attacks. In fact, any spirit treasure can be used as an attack. Although the Kunwu Golden Pagoda's main function is to assist, it does indeed have the ability to attack. However, to activate the Kunwu Golden Pagoda's full offensive power, it requires a huge amount of energy. With the density of Master's core essence, even if you use it all up, you can only unleash 10% of its full power. As for the defensive power, as long as the pagoda's material is not ordinary, as long as the power of the attack does not break the limit of the pagoda, it will be difficult to shake the owner of the pagoda. Of course, the means of the strong are often strange and unpredictable. If the other party uses a trapping formation or seals the entire spirit treasure, then the owner of the Kunwu Golden Pagoda will be in a very passive position. Oh right, this Kunwu Golden Pagoda is also helpless against primordial spirit attack. Therefore, Master must not be careless. Because the Kunwu artifact spirit had already been refined by Ziyue, its expression had clearly become much more respectful as it hurriedly explained. With the density of my core essence, I can only unleash 10% of this spirit treasure's power? Then how strong is this level of power? Ziyue asked doubtfully. Roughly equivalent to the full power of an expert of the extreme realm. The Kunwu artifact spirit said indifferently. Its power has reached the extreme realm? Ziyue was shocked and even more pleasantly surprised. He knew very well that there were differences in strength even among those at the pinnacle of the primordial spirit realm. The strongest among them was the supreme realm, which was equivalent to the regal realm of the golden elixir realm, or even the half-step primordial spirit realm. It was only a step away from the next level of strength. Yet now, because he possessed the Kunwu Gold Pagoda, he possessed a strength comparable to the full-forced strike of a Lamiter. Although he could only unleash one attack with the density of his Jindan essence, one should not forget that as long as his spiritual energy was not depleted, the power of his Jindan essence would be endless. It was equivalent to being able to unleash the power of this attack without limit. As for the defensive ability, it should be comparable to the strength of the attack, or even stronger. To him, it was already much safer. The only threat is an essence soul attack. Unfortunately, I'm only at the golden core realm right now and have yet to cultivate an essence spirit. Therefore, I can't cultivate any of the essence spirit secret skills I obtained. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so passive when facing an expert who's proficient in soul attacks. Ziyue also understood the weakness of the Kunwu Golden Pagoda's defense. However, he wasn't too disappointed. The Kunwu Golden Pagoda wasn't an offensive or defensive treasure. Its offensive power and defensive function were both supplementary. Its true function was to test the internal structure of the pagoda and the nomological laws cultivation room as a reward after the test. This nomological laws cultivation room is actually the most important part of the Kunwu Golden Pagoda. Back then, the Kunwu Daoist had paid a huge price to construct this cultivation treasure using the core of a planet as the foundation. In the nomological laws cultivation room, the laws of the entire world will be materialized and displayed more clearly in front of the cultivator. Thus, the cultivator will be able to understand the direction of his cultivation and not take the wrong path. With the help of this nomological laws cultivation room, the cultivator's chances of breaking through from the peak of the primordial spirit realm to the spirit severing realm can be increased by 30%. This was also the reason why the number of spirit severing realm cultivators in the dragon race was often greater than that of ordinary peak races. It was also because of this nomological laws cultivation room that so many talented cultivators came from afar to the Dragon Palace and paid a huge price, including their own inheritances, to participate in the test. It's also that they can enter this nomological laws cultivation room and cultivate. The Kunwu artifact spirit explained. Is this nomological laws cultivation room really so magical? I want to give it a try. However, why didn't I get a reward to enter this place when I passed the test previously? Xiue's heart skipped a beat and he couldn't help but ask. Of course. The entire Kunwu Golden Pagoda is already under the control of Master. Of course, Master can use the nomological laws cultivation room to cultivate at any time. As for why Master didn't get a reward to enter the nomological laws cultivation room to cultivate, it's actually because the cultivation room needs energy to open. Now that tens of thousands of years have passed, the energy inside has been exhausted in order to maintain the automatic operation of the entire numinous treasure. So, the Kunwu artifact spirit explained. Xiue nodded. He knew that there was a price for everything. It was very normal that the nomological laws cultivation room needed energy to open. He couldn't help but ask, what kind of energy is needed to open the nomological laws cultivation room? Spirit stones, at least superior grade spirit stones. Of course, supreme grade spirit stones are the best. Or other high grade energy, such as immortal crystals, void purple crystals, earth source chi stones, pure yang true liquid. Generally speaking, 10,000 superior grade spirit stones can open the nomological laws cultivation room for 2 hours. 120,000 superior grade spirit stones for a day. Of course, if supreme grade spirit stones or immortal crystals are used, because the energy level is higher, it can be maintained for a relatively longer period of time. The Kunwu artifact spirit said somewhat helplessly. The price is actually so high? Xiue was surprised. 10,000 superior grade spirit stones could only allow one to use the nomological laws cultivation room for 2 hours, which was 2 hours. Even if the effect was amazing, it wasn't something that everyone could bear. Even for the powerhouses of the Dragon Clan, it was unlikely that they would continue to cultivate in the law cultivation room. However, although the price of using the nomological laws cultivation room was huge, his net worth was also not low. He also wanted to give it a try. He first glanced at the attribute panel. The number of spirit energy has reached about 570 million, and the speed of increase has begun to slow down. Obviously, although the war outside is still going on, the two sides are already in a stalemate. Xiue quickly came to a conclusion. Based on the number of experts on both sides, especially the number of black-scaled lizard demons in the Dragon Emperor Palace, it would take some time for the cultivators of the various races to really rush into the Dragon Emperor Palace and gain a foothold. Therefore, with a thought, his figure flickered and disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in a huge secret cultivation room. The nomological laws cultivation room. Xiue looked at the empty secret room and waved his hand without hesitation. Boom! A small pile of spirit stones appeared in front of him. It was 10,000 superior grade spirit stones. Immediately, he put them into the energy slot of the nomological laws cultivation room. Let's begin. Xiue used his control of the entire Kunwu Golden Pagoda to form a seal. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The void shook. The nomological law's cultivation room immediately played its role. Immediately after, Ziyue immediately noticed that the surrounding heaven and earth had undergone an obvious change compared to before. In the void, the mysterious laws of the courtyard gate were like incomparably complex but constantly changing virtual lines at this moment. These virtual lines rapidly changed directions. Every time they changed, they seemed to be endlessly mysterious, causing by Ziyue to reveal an intoxicated expression with a single glance. Is this the nomological laws? It's too clear. It's countless times clearer than my previous comprehension. Moreover, although the operation of the nomological laws seems to be disorderly, once one sinks into it, one can feel the beauty in it. This beauty is a kind of perfection, as if heaven and earth should be like this, and the structure of the world should be like this. It is a kind of natural manifestation of the whole world through a trace of the mysterious laws. It's too beautiful, too perfect. Ziyue sank into it almost immediately. He was like a lost person chasing after light in the dark, and after discovering a little light, he could not wait to chase after it, but soon, he realized that this was too blank. It was too passive. Although it did make his comprehension of the laws of heaven and earth a little better, it did not make much progress in improving his own strength. I need a direction. Therefore, as if he had good luck, he thought of the Tao techniques that he had mastered that he had yet to formally learn, the great Tao Dharma idol. It was also because at this moment, he could clearly see the threads of the nomological laws, so he understood that the so-called Tao techniques were actually created based on the mystery of the laws of heaven and earth. This also explained why Tao techniques could interfere with the laws of heaven and earth. Because in essence, the two were the same kind of mystery, and were at the same level of power, so naturally, they could not be restrained by the laws of heaven and earth. Activate the enlightenment time. Immediately after, Ziyue also used the power of the attribute panel to activate the enlightenment time. Suddenly, his mind became unprecedentedly clear, and all kinds of insights, all kinds of strange ideas, and all kinds of ideas that were difficult to grasp in the past emerged in his mind with incomparable clarity. Looking at the incomparably complicated laws of heaven and earth, he had a trace of understanding in his heart. There was a feeling that all the great Taos were in his heart. Then, he placed his attention on the Tao techniques and the great Tao Dharma idol. He also took out the corresponding treasures and officially began to cultivate. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Ziyue kept operating the great Tao Dharma idol and took out the corresponding cultivation materials. I see. Based on my past cultivation experience, it would probably take me 1 or 2 days of cultivation before I could comprehend this barrier. In the end, in this law cultivation room, it's incomparably clear, and it saved me too many detours. Ziyue compared the mysteries of the laws and constantly cultivated the great Tao Dharma idol. His mind was unprecedentedly clear. In just a short period of time, it caused his cultivation progress of the great Tao Dharma idol to increase by a large margin. 52% uninitiated. In just the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, my cultivation progress of the Dharma idol has increased from 27% to 52% of the original Dharma idol. Moreover, I have a feeling that when I officially enter, the bottlenecks that have troubled me in the past will no longer exist. No bottlenecks. This was something that rarely happened to Ziyue. After all, from uninitiated to entry, it was also a hurdle. In the past, Ziyue was stuck at this small stage in the process of cultivating many remarkable abilities, great remarkable abilities or Tao technique. He would wander around for a period of time before entering the great Tao Dharma idol. However, because of the special effect of the law cultivation room, not only did it allow his cultivation progress to be unprecedentedly fast, but it also allowed him to understand the various obstacles in the cultivation process in advance. He could directly skip this hurdle and smoothly enter the great Tao Dharma idol stage. The only thing I'm lacking is accumulation. It's just the time to condense the Tao Technique seed. Ziyue felt relaxed. His mind sank into his body, and while condensing the Tao Technique seed, his great Tao Dharma idol could not help but operate wildly. Uninitiated 60%, uninitiated 70%, uninitiated 80% time passed, and the moment the Tao Technique seed in Ziyue's body condensed again, his body shook violently, and a carefree and comfortable feeling immediately surfaced in his heart. He immediately had a realization in his heart. Tao Technique, Great Tao Dharma Idol, I've entered the Great Tao Dharma Idol stage. Bai Ziyue slowly opened his eyes, and he could not help but reveal an obvious look of joy on his face. Although he had mastered a lot of Tao techniques now, especially when he had received the inheritance of 3 experts, his foundation was so deep that it was not inferior to some of the top immortal technique sections. However, this great Tao Dharma idol was the most suitable for him at the moment, and it was also the one that was most likely to improve his strength in a short period of time. I've entered the great Tao Dharma idol stage. And now, the number of my spirit power is still continuing to soar following the battle in the Dragon Emperor Palace. The number of my spirit power has already reached more than 900 million? 930 million? It won't take long for it to increase to 1 billion? 1 billion was a threshold. Once the number of his spirit power reached 1 billion, his attribute panel would be upgraded again. It was great that the attribute panel was upgraded, but at this moment, he wanted to use the attribute panel to improve the realm of his great Tao Dharma idol. I can't wait any longer. Ziyue was anxious and quickly looked at the great Tao Dharma idol that was already at the great Tao Dharma idol stage. Consume 80 million spirit power to upgrade the Tao Technique Great Tao Dharma idol from the Great Tao Dharma idol stage to the Small Success stage. Chapter 760. A great path Dharma body is similar to a god's Dharma body. There are few methods that can increase a cultivator's strength. Among them, the great path Dharma body was a Tao technique. Regardless of whether it was the degree of subtlety or the power, it was far superior to the perfect God's spiritual physique. I believe that after it was upgraded to perfection, it would definitely allow my strength to increase tremendously. In this way, even if the cost of improving this Tao technique is huge, it's not like I can't afford it. For methods that could increase his strength, Ziyue was never stingy with the consumption of his soul power. He also believed that it would all be worth it. The improvement of a great path Dharma body would definitely increase his strength greatly. Improve. Thinking of this, he didn't hesitate anymore and chose to improve it directly. Virum. At the same time that his soul power decreased greatly, Ziyue immediately felt that a large amount of cultivation methods and operating principles of a great path Dharma body suddenly appeared in his mind. Among them, the deeper level involved the mysteries of the laws of heaven and earth. It was as if he instinctively grasped them and understood them in his heart. It was as if at this moment, the entire great path Dharma body had become much simpler in his eyes. He could clearly restore it and display its power and mysteries. As for himself, it was as if he had gone through thousands of years of hard work to improve it to the level of small success. A small success great path Dharma body's power is already quite extraordinary. Although it's still not as good as my perfect God's Dharma body, it has increased my control of my strength and physical body slightly. Ziyue silently compared it and wasn't disappointed. After all, a great path Dharma body was a technique that he had improved to the level of perfect great path Dharma body. Moreover, he had improved it to perfection. Its power was naturally extraordinary. It was just a small success great path Dharma body. Even if the great path Dharma body was a Tao technique, the increase in his strength naturally couldn't be compared to a god's Dharma body. However, a Tao technique was still a Tao technique after all. The intricacies and the control of his strength far surpassed that of a god's Dharma body. Because of this, it also allowed his control of his strength to become much more profound. Maybe this great path Dharma body can really let my control of my physical body and strength break through to another level again. Ziyue couldn't help but look forward to it. The physical body was also very important in human cultivation. Some body cultivators specialized in cultivating their bodies. Among them, those with high cultivation levels were even able to derive fleshly body divine abilities from this, allowing them to grow severed limbs, be reborn from a single drop of blood, and become immortal and indestructible. Although Ziyue's physical body was strong and his control had reached an extremely high level, there was still a long way to go before he could achieve this. Although this great path Dharma form could not increase the strength of his physical body, nor was it a body cultivation technique, it could increase his control over his physical body. If he could control every single particle in his fleshly body, he would naturally be able to evolve a mysterious fleshly body ability. Regrowing a severed arm, regrowing a single drop of blood, becoming immortal and indestructible. It wasn't impossible. Continue. Excited, Ziyue did not stop. By spending 160 million soul energy points, I can upgrade my Tao Technique Dharma idol from small mastery to large mastery. By spending 320 million points of soul energy, I can upgrade my Tao Technique Dharma idol from great success to great perfection. Upgrade. Upgrade. 1. At that instant, Bai Ziyue could feel countless experiences regarding the cultivation of the great Tao Dharma idol flowing in his heart. In just a short period of time, he had completely grasped all the changes of the great Tao Dharma idol and was fully aware of them. As for himself, he seemed to have gone through tens of thousands of years of tireless cultivation to cultivate this Tao technique to the peak of perfection. The great path Dharma form has reached great perfection. It has also allowed my strength to increase once again. I just don't know how much my strength will increase after I use the great path Dharma form. Ziyue slowly opened his eyes and silently digested the comprehension regarding the great path Dharma form in his mind. Soon, a sense of curiosity rose in his heart. He knew that the power of the great path Dharma form was undoubtedly stronger than the god's celestial body. They were both at great perfection, but one was a Tao technique while the other was a great perfection superpower. Naturally, the Tao technique would be superior. However, he had no idea how much it would increase his strength. It's easy to test it out, Ziyue thought. With a flash of his body, he disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, Ziyue appeared in a vast and boundless space. It was the interior of the Kunwu Golden Pagoda. Then, he stretched out his hand. 1. A total of 16 great demons that were equivalent to the early stage of the primordial soul realm appeared before his eyes. They were the group of primordial soul realm great demons that appeared when Ziyue was challenging the 5th level. Now that Ziyue had completely refined the Kunwu Golden Pagoda, he could naturally control the interior of the Kunwu Golden Pagoda at will. He could project these great demons out and fight them as his opponent. Then, he fully unleashed his combat strength and used the great path Dharma form. Instantly, the Tao technique seed in Ziyue's body spun wildly. As the endless Jindan essence dissipated, waves of special origin energy began to spread around him. In the blink of an eye, his body swelled wildly and turned into a giant that was 12 feet tall. Kill! The group of primordial soul realm great demons did not hesitate and quickly charged over. Seeing this, Ziyue's expression did not change. Lightning flashed on his body. Chi like lightning, he rushed to the front of the group of great demons in an instant. Using the same lightning escape light, my speed is at least a third faster than before. Bai Ziyue muttered to himself. He looked at the silver wolf great demon that had yet to react and revealed a look of shock. Without hesitation, he struck out with his palm. Boom! The silver wolf great demon's head exploded instantly and turned into a pile of meat. My strength has increased more than my speed. It has increased by more than half. If it was before, with my strength, I would not have been able to shatter his head without using any offensive secret technique. Not to mention that this palm strike not only shattered his head but also destroyed his primordial soul realm demon core. Ziyue was excited. He hurriedly used other offensive technique. First, he used the one sword to destroy all techniques. Then, he used the Great Elemental Magnetic Slash. Great Elemental Magnetic Divine Light, a 9 Extinction Divine Sword. In addition, he also used the other auxiliary secret techniques that he had mastered. 5 Emperor Heaven Sealing Sword, Grand Taboo Spirit Technique, Heaven and Earth Sleeve. He compared the changes before and after. After a while, the battle came to a halt. Ziyue hovered in the void, unable to hide his excitement. It was too easy. If it was said that I found it difficult to deal with 16 primordial soul realm demons previously, I would have found it difficult to deal with them. But now, it's much easier. I even feel like I have more energy to spare. Even the time it took to end the battle was greatly shortened. This time, it only took 30 breaths. And this was because I wanted to verify the differences between the secret techniques before and after. Otherwise, it would have taken even less time. Previously, it took me more than 60 breaths to barely pass. Ziyue compared and was very satisfied. Although the time taken was shortened by half, it did not necessarily mean that his strength had doubled, but such an increase was already very significant. If it was said that Ziyue's strength was only equivalent to the 3rd tier of the advanced primordial soul realm when he used his full strength, then now, after he used his Great Path Dharma power, his true strength had risen by 2 tiers and reached the 1st tier of the advanced primordial soul realm. The 1st tier of the advanced primordial soul realm is only a step away from the pinnacle of the primordial soul realm. Not to mention, after using my Great Path Dharma power, my 2 offensive Dao techniques, Great Elemental Magnetic Divine Light and 9 Extinction Divine Sword, have also increased in power. In terms of offensive strength, they have probably reached the 2nd tier of the pinnacle of the primordial soul realm. However, like other Dao techniques, the consummation level of the Great Path Dharma power consumes a terrifying amount of my Jindan essence. If I don't use the attribute panel to recover, I can only maintain this Dao technique for 30 breaths at most. After 30 breaths, the Jindan essence will be exhausted. If I use other techniques, such as one sword to break all spells, and Great Elemental Magnetic Cleavage, the duration will be even shorter. If I use Great Elemental Magnetic Cleavage and 9 Extinction Divine Sword together, I probably won't be able to maintain it for more than 10 breaths. Ziyue hurriedly dismissed the Great Path Dharma power. He understood the pros and cons of this Dao technique. Using Great Elemental Magnetic Divine Light and 9 Extinction Divine Sword was already extremely draining. Adding Great Path Dharma power to the Great Path Dharma power naturally increased the pressure on him. After all, he was only at the pinnacle of the Golden Elixir realm. It was naturally more difficult to maintain a Dao technique that could only be used by an adept of the primordial soul realm. Another thing worth mentioning is that with the consummation of the Great Path Dharma power, my control over my physical body has increased tremendously. My control has already reached the level of the particles of my flesh. It is not impossible for me to regrow a broken limb. Immediately after, Ziyue felt the changes in his physical body. With just a thought, the tiny particles of flesh and blood in the depths of his body quickly arranged themselves and changed under his control. In the past, it was difficult to detect hidden injuries that could not be healed even with divine elixirs. Or when he cultivated various techniques, the damage to the particles of his flesh and blood were all clearly seen by him. He quickly used his control over the particles of his flesh and blood to heal them one by one. An unprecedented sense of comfort also surfaced in his heart. As for trying to regrow a broken limb, he felt that there was no need. Because mastering was mastering, there was no need to really try to prove it. Immediately after, he did not stay in the trial space for too long. With a move of his feet, he reappeared in the precept cultivation room. My great path Dharma power has been raised to the consummation level. It is difficult for my strength to increase in the short term. There is only one way to increase my strength. That is to break through my current cultivation level, overcome the heavenly tribulation of thunder and fire, and attain the primordial soul realm. Ziyue was already at the pinnacle of the golden elixir realm. Unless he had a breakthrough in his cultivation level, it would be extremely difficult for his strength to increase, and he himself had been looking forward to this for a long time. However, if I want to break through and go through the thunder and fire heavenly tribulation, I have to break through the 12 golden elixir shackles on my golden elixir first. Ziyue's heart quickly tightened. He could also feel the strong binding force on the purple pole golden elixir in his body. It was because of the 12 golden elixir shackles that Ziyue's soul could not continue to increase. Even if it was strengthened, it could only accumulate strength to form the great soul golden elixir. The Jindan essence in his body could not increase because of this. Although compared to other golden elixir realm experts, it was naturally much more vigorous. Compared to the golden elixir realm experts that he had mastered, it was naturally somewhat insufficient. Now, it is time for me to try to break through the golden elixir shackles and break through the obstacles. Thinking of this, Ziyue hurriedly sat down cross-legged again. With a jolt of his mind, he directly sank into his own sea of consciousness. A huge ball that was emitting a rich purple color immediately appeared in front of his eyes. Purple pole golden elixir, Ziyue muttered. Soon, he saw the 12 crisscrossing great Tao marks on the huge purple pole golden elixir. They looked extremely complicated and mysterious. They were the golden elixir shackles. The golden elixir shackles are a shackle. It is also a kind of recognition and gift from heaven and earth to a cultivator's foundation. In the many legacies that I have obtained, there are also explanations in this regard. Although the system is different, for example, the dragon race has a true dragon physical body tribulation. It is actually not much different from my golden elixir shackles. Ziyue's foundation was now very deep and his legacies were complete. Naturally, he also knew that the golden elixir shackles were not as bad as he had imagined. At least, if not for the golden elixir shackles on his soul, even if his soul was complete, it would be impossible for the great soul golden thread to be born in his soul. According to the Heart Sword True Honorable's legacy, there are usually 2 ways for a golden elixir realm cultivator to break through the golden elixir shackles. The first way is to break through with brute force, using a strong soul power to break through the golden elixir shackles. The deeper the foundation and the stronger the soul, the stronger the ability to break through the golden elixir shackles. The second method would take a much longer time. That is to use one's deep foundation and understanding of the laws of heaven and earth to comprehend the shackles on the golden elixir. If one can completely comprehend the mystery of the golden elixir shackles, not only will it allow the cultivator to have another great ability to use, but it will also be easy to break through the golden elixir shackles. Of the 2 methods, one is to use brute force, and the other is to comprehend. There is no better or worse between the 2. The only difference is the amount of time it takes. Ziyue muttered in his heart as he looked at the golden elixir shackles. With his foundation and deep understanding of the laws of heaven and earth, he could almost see through some of the essence of the shackles at a glance. At least, he was confident that he could completely comprehend and break through most of the great Tao marks in a short period of time. Especially now that he was in the law cultivation room, the laws of heaven and earth were incomparably clear. In comparison, he believed that his speed of breaking through the great Tao marks would be faster. Chapter 761. However, it was precisely because he understood the nature of these marks of the great Tao, in addition to his strength, that he did not have much need for great magical powers. Therefore, what he wanted to try now was another method. Breaking through with force, using force to prove his Tao. There was no other reason, it was fast. Moreover, he also wanted to know if with the strength of his perfected soul and the thick great soul golden silk in his body, he could really break through all 12 shackles of the golden core. He knew that it would be very difficult. After all, the shackles of the golden core above the violet golden core were incomparably stable and were recognized as difficult to break through in the world of immortal technique. The further one went, the more difficult it would be. In the Celestial Spirit sect, there was once a peerlessly talented expert who achieved the violet golden core. However, he was unable to break through the shackles of the violet golden core and was unable to advance to the primordial spirit realm. However, he still wanted to give it a try. Moreover, he had the confidence to do so. I would like to see how many golden core shackles I can break with my perfected soul and the great soul golden silk. Ziyue muttered to himself. He adjusted the state of his soul so that it was in a stable and perfected state. Then, in a spurt of energy, he quickly rushed out of the golden core. Buzz! The marks of the great Tao on the golden core instantly propped up, like a huge net that wrapped around his golden core and completely locked his soul within. Ah! Ziyue shouted, and a ray of light burst out from his soul. This ray of light was like a sharp blade that could cut through the heavens and tear the world apart. All of it surged into the shackles of the golden core. Pain, pain, pain. Unbearable pain suddenly descended on Ziyue's body. In the depths of his soul, it made his body tremble instinctively. Even his soul trembled slightly, as if it was afraid of something. It was as if a great calamity would befall him if this continued, and he would suffer unimaginable damage. However, once Ziyue made a decision, he would not turn back. Even though he was in extreme pain, he forced himself to endure it. White mist rose from his body, and the ray of light above his soul shone brightly. Bam! Finally, as Ziyue's soul continued to expand, the first golden core shackle seemed to be unable to withstand the pressure and was torn apart, shattering into pieces. In an instant, Ziyue felt his mind relax. An unprecedented carefree feeling quickly arose in his heart. The first Aurus core shackle had been forcibly opened by him. Moreover, the shattered shackles of the Great Path did not dissipate with the wind. Instead, they seemed to be strongly attracted to Ziyue's golden elixir and the soul within his golden elixir. His gold core trembled, rapidly consuming the special power. Not only was it refining the power of his core essence, but it was also increasing the strength of his soul, transforming it into soul grand gold strands, causing his power reserves to grow even more powerful. Break the shackles and surpass the limit. Who would have thought that by opening the first Jindan shackle, the great soul golden thread in my soul would increase by 30%. If all 12 Jindan shackles are opened, will my soul be completely taken over by the great soul golden thread and turn golden? Ziyue was guessing, but he also knew that this was a good thing. Although opening the Jindan shackle did not increase his strength by much, the increase in soul grand gold strands made him feel at ease. Most importantly, he discovered that after breaking the Jindan shackle, he had naturally mastered a great mystique. Great divine power, listen? Ziyue quickly understood the function of this great divine power. He found that it was a very practical detection method among the auxiliary great divine powers. Once he used it, he would be able to hear almost everything within a radius of 1,000 miles. Even in the Dragon Palace, where there were countless formations and restrictions, the distance that he could detect was beyond imagination. At least in any corner of the Dragon Palace, if there was any movement, he could clearly hear it. This great pathmark is after all a golden core shackle that acts on my golden core. It is one with me. After I open it, the mysteries contained within will naturally appear in my mind, and I will be able to use it. Ziyue quickly came to his senses and felt a little surprised. Although he did not value the great divine power contained in the great pathmark, he would not give it up since he had it in his hands. Continue. Of course, he was not satisfied with just opening one Jindan shackle. Moreover, he knew that he still had a lot of energy left and was full of confidence. Therefore, he quickly immersed himself in it again, stirring up the power of the soul and attacking the Jindan shackle with all his strength. Pung! 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 In an instant, 3 Jindan shackles, following Ziyue's fierce attacks, quickly collapsed and shattered. A shocking wave of energy also followed him, as he attacked the Jindan shackles and rushed towards the surroundings of the Precept cultivation room. The shock wave caused ripples to appear in the surrounding void. Fortunately, the Precept cultivation room was also a part of the numinous treasure and was incomparably stable. Naturally, it could withstand such a strong impact. As the 3 Jindan shackles were broken, Ziyue instantly understood the mystery of the 3 great divine powers. Moreover, the great soul golden silk in the complete soul of the Jindan also became more vigorous. Even the power of the soul that he had lost was more than half recovered. This Jindan shackle is indeed not that easy to break. Now that I have only broken the 4th Jindan shackle, it is more than twice as stable as before. I reckon that when I reach the last few Jindan shackles, the stability will be even stronger. Ziyue frowned slightly. He also felt that the Jindan shackles were more stable and tenacious as he progressed. It would be extremely difficult to break them. However, he was not without confidence. At least, he had not used the great soul golden silk in his soul. Continue. I want to see how many Jindan shackles I can break in one go. Ziyue muttered. He continued to stir up the power of the soul. The 5th, the 6th, the 7th. When the 7th Jindan shackle was broken, Ziyue finally felt the difficulty. He clearly understood that it was difficult to break the 8th Jindan shackle with his own power of the soul. He had to borrow the power of the great soul golden silk. Indeed, the barrier between the peak of the Jindan realm and the primordial soul realm is not that easy to pass. My soul is already at the peak of perfection, but it is still difficult to break the 8th Jindan shackle. For those cultivators whose souls are not at the peak of perfection and who have formed a first-grade Jindan and have 9 Jindan shackles, it will definitely be more difficult for them to break through. Ziyue muttered to himself. He finally understood why there were so many experts who were stuck at the peak of the Jindan realm in the immortal spell world. Many of them were unable to step into the primordial soul realm in their entire life. Apart from the primordial soul thunder tribulation, the Jindan shackle was indeed a huge obstacle placed in front of almost all Jindan realm cultivators, unless they relied on external help. At the thought of external help, Ziyue thought of the Stellar Origin Divine Stone that he had obtained in the Stellar Origin Divine Mountain. The Stellar Origin Divine Stone was also very effective for cultivators to break through the Jindan shackles. However, he had not reached that stage yet. After recovering his power of the soul with the help of the attribute panel, Ziyue stirred his soul once again. This time, he even triggered the great soul golden silk in his soul to form a sharp spike. Under the amplification effect of the great spirit golden silk, a tyrannical, majestic, and turbulent power of the soul was produced. It evolved into a sharp spike that naturally possessed extraordinary power. It rapidly charged towards the layers of shackles of the golden core outside of the golden core. Boom! With a loud sound, the 8th Jindan shackle was pushed to its limit. Then there was a pop sound. It shattered and turned into powder. Seeing this, Ziyue was not surprised. In a spurt of energy, he once again controlled the great soul golden silk to form a sharp spike. Boom! 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 The ninth Oris core shackle was obviously stronger than the eighth by a large margin. Baiziue had to attack it 3 times before he finally broke it open. The ninth Jindan shackle has been broken. If I was only a first-grade Jindan cultivator, I would have already started to prepare for the heavenly tribulation. However, what I have condensed is indeed the amethyst golden core, and it is a perfect amethyst golden core. There are as many as 12 Jindan shackles. Therefore, there are still 3 Jindan shackles left, and they are the most difficult ones. Ziue took a deep breath. Sensing that more than half of the great soul golden silk in his soul had been consumed, he did not care about the depletion of his soul power and quickly recovered it. Then, he started to attack again. The great soul golden silk turned into a sharp spike and quickly pierced out. Boom! 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 As he continued to attack, waves of tearing pain also acted on his body and the depths of his soul. It was unbearable and his face began to distort. However, after breaking the Jindan shackles consecutively, his endurance was also very strong and his eyes were extremely determined. With every attack, he could clearly feel that the Jindan shackle on his amethyst golden core was weakening and collapsing. As the number of attacks increased, the damage also became greater, until it was completely shattered. Then, his mind suddenly relaxed. An incomparably comfortable and carefree feeling surfaced in his heart. The 10th Jindan shackle was also broken. After a short rest, Ziue naturally did not stop and continued to attack. After the 10th Jindan shackle, the 11th Jindan shackle was also broken. Then, the 12th Jindan shackle was extremely stable, almost comparable to the first 11 Jindan shackles combined. However, Baiziue's soul force was too strong. The effect of the Great Spirit Golden Silk was even more tyrannical. Most importantly, Baiziue had a tool like the attribute panel that could continuously replenish his soul force. Therefore, after exhausting his soul power and the Great Soul Golden Silk in his soul a total of 5 times, he finally completely broke the 12th Jindan shackle. I didn't expect it to be so smooth. I didn't need to use the Star Origin Divine Stone, just the strength of my soul and the Great Soul Golden Silk to break all 12 Jindan shackles. Now, as long as I want to, I can break through at any time and trigger the heavenly tribulation, allowing my soul to be baptized by the heavenly tribulation and become a primordial spirit. Suddenly, Ziue felt his soul become lighter, and an impulse to leave the Jindan and fly into the sky surged out. He knew that this was because he had completely broken the 12th Jindan shackle, and there were no more obstacles besides his soul and body. At this moment, he could let his soul leave his body at any time and trigger the heavenly tribulation, allowing his soul to be baptized into a primordial spirit. He couldn't help but feel excited and a little restless. He couldn't help but want to try and experience the feeling of his soul leaving his body. However, he still forcefully resisted this impulse. When one's soul is weak, the risk of leaving the body is extremely high. Just a little wind, rain, sunlight, and thunder can cause serious damage to a cultivator's soul, requiring a long time to recuperate. At this moment, although my soul is strong and I'm not afraid of the wind, rain, thunder, or the sun, but once my soul leaves the Jindan, the heavens and earth will sense it and trigger the heavenly tribulation. Once the heavenly tribulation is formed, I can only advance and not retreat. Unless I pass the heavenly tribulation and my soul is baptized into a primordial spirit, I will die. Ziue woke up with a start and he knew the danger. He had just broken the 12th Jindan shackle, and he was already tired. In the Dragon Palace, there were many unknown dangers, and he naturally didn't want to undergo the heavenly tribulation here. Not to mention, he didn't have full confidence that he could pass the heavenly tribulation safely. Naturally, he had to make many preparations. The matter of the heavenly tribulation needs some time. Moreover, I've also tested the effects of this law cultivation room, and I've also used it to raise my Tao technique Dharma characteristic to perfection. I've also broken through the 12th Jindan shackle here. Now, it's time for me to come out of seclusion and head to the front hall of the Dragon Palace to see the situation of their battle. Ziyue slowly restrained the excitement and joy in his heart. His eyes were deep as he looked towards the front hall of the Dragon Palace, in the direction of the corpses of the true dragon and the extraterrestrial demon. Not to mention how shocking the value of the corpses of the true dragon and the extraterrestrial demon were, just the demonic treasure scattered on the ground tempted him. Previously, he had heard from Fairy Bai Chen that it wasn't that immortal Tao cultivators couldn't use demonic treasures, but they had to guard against the backlash. As for him, his soul was perfect and transparent, and he naturally had a strong resistance to the attack of such demonic treasures. Naturally, he could use that demonic treasure. Demonic treasures are treasures on the same level as spiritual treasures. Even if I don't use it myself, I can still exchange it for great benefits through transactions. Ziyue muttered, and suddenly remembered some of the treasures he saw in the Qinxian mountain token. Some of them were quite tempting. Not to mention, he still had some grudges on the battlefield that he needed to settle. 9-star Tao Palaces Wang Xueji, Celestial Spirit Sex Mo Fan, and the True Devil Sex Kong Mo. It was definitely not a coincidence that they appeared here. He naturally had to greet them one by one. Chapter 762. With a thought, Ziyue closed the law cultivation room. Soon, he appeared outside the Kunwu Golden Pagoda. When Zhang Xian turned around to look at the ancient and natural Kunwu Golden Pagoda, a smile surfaced on his face. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The Kunwu Golden Pagoda, which had not moved for hundreds of thousands of years in the Dragon Emperor Palace, suddenly shook. Then, it soared into the sky and quickly shrank. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a small golden pagoda that could be held up by the palm of one's hand and fell into Ziyue's palm. The Kunwu Golden Pagoda is in my hands. As for the Memory Inheritance Palace, it was refined by generations of Dragon Clan experts and can't be taken away by those without the Dragon Clan bloodline. Although it's a pity, it's not a big deal. Next, it's time to go to the front hall of the Dragon Emperor Palace. Ziyue had almost gone through the entire back hall. He even found the Dragon Clan's treasury. However, it was different from the true dragon treasury outside. The most important treasury in the Dragon Emperor Palace was empty. It had been emptied. Although there were still a few treasures left because they were in a hurry, none of the most valuable treasures were left. From this, Ziyue also inferred that although there had been no true dragon experts in the entire astral boundary for a long time, there must have been some true dragons who escaped and went into hiding during the war. But why they hadn't stepped into the Dragon Palace for tens of thousands of years was not something he could know. He reached out and patted, and the Kunwu Golden Pagoda quickly disappeared into his body. After thinking for a while, he summoned Fairy Bai Chen from the northern underworld grotto heaven. Her understanding of the Dragon Palace was far better than his. If he wanted to leave the Dragon Palace later, he would have to rely on her, so he naturally had to keep her by his side. As soon as Fairy Bai Chen appeared, her eyes flashed and she quickly noticed that the 9-dragon golden pagoda had disappeared. Her eyes immediately revealed a look of horror and she exclaimed, "That treasure, the 9-dragon golden pagoda, was taken away by you." "Yes, but this golden pagoda is not called the 9-dragon golden pagoda. Its real name is the Kunwu Golden Pagoda. It's a treasure carefully refined by an ancient immortal Tao expert, the Kunwu Taoist." Ziyue nodded and did not deny it. Although Fairy Bai Chen had regained her consciousness, she had almost no combat power left. She only had her puppet body to defend herself, so it would be difficult for her to leave his side. He wasn't afraid of her knowing. Not to mention, the other party even had the will to die. It was estimated that her consciousness would vanish when she left the Dragon Palace. She would not pose a threat to him and spread the news that he had obtained the numinous treasure. Taoist Kunwu? Kunwu Golden Pagoda. Fairy Bai Chen was slightly stunned, but she quickly nodded. Her thoughts were very complicated. She knew that there were only 3 ways for a spiritual treasure to recognize an owner. One was to forcefully refine it, one was to use one's blood to refine it, and the last way was for the spiritual treasure to recognize an owner. To forcibly bind it required a power far greater than that of the spiritual treasure itself. Although Taoist Dark North was powerful, he was only at the peak of the Jindan stage. Clearly, this was impossible. The refinement of the Kunwu Golden Pagoda usually required a large amount of time. Given the grade of the Kunwu Golden Pagoda, even a mid to late stage primordial spirit realm expert would need hundreds of years of hard work. Therefore, she guessed that Taoist Dark North must have been recognized as its master by the artifact's spirit. It took the initiative to recognize an owner. Even in the entire astral realm, there are very few people who can be recognized by the artifact's spirit of a spiritual treasure. There are only some records of it in ancient books and legends. Which one of those people isn't a peerless genius? They almost certainly have the achievement of reaching the spirit-severing stage. Fairy Bai Chen thought to herself as she looked up at Bai Ziyue. She quickly came to a realization. With Taoist Dark North's talent, he was able to slay immortals despite being at the peak of the Golden Core realm. He was able to slay early-stage and mid-stage Essence Soul realm experts with his sword. He's much stronger than the legends recorded in the ancient books. If everything goes smoothly, it's very normal for him to break through to the spirit-severing stage and become an immortal Tao expert in the future. Being recognized by the artifact spirit of the Kunwu Golden Pagoda, it's natural for him to obtain the numinous treasure. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but feel a little numb. Along the way, Bai Ziyue had shown her more than one thing that had shocked her. What was there that he couldn't do? If one day he showed the strength of a late primordial spirit realm expert, or even a peak primordial spirit realm expert, she probably wouldn't be too shocked. Ziyue naturally didn't know that in a short period of time, Fairy Bai Chen had already had so many complicated thoughts in her mind. After greeting her, he immediately went to the front hall of the Dragon Emperor Palace with her. Along the way, there were dilapidated fences and dilapidated walls. There were countless ruins from the battle. The originally magnificent Dragon Emperor Palace had long lost its original color. Bai Ziyue could only tell how extraordinary this place was from the ruins left behind after the great battle. On the ground there were also some Dharma treasures and even storage bags, but there wasn't a single corpse. It seemed that they had been eroded by an invisible force. Seeing this, Ziyue's heart skipped a beat. He quickly asked Fairy Bai Chen, "According to what you said, although the battle was sudden, many Dharma treasures were left behind after the battle. Then why did their corpses disappear? Not even their bones were left behind." He had been quite puzzled about this before, and even had a faint ominous premonition. Now that he saw such a situation again, he naturally had to ask. "I don't know much about this. Because the great Sun True Dragon Palace I was in happened to be in the periphery of the battle. Even the protective array of the palace was not broken, so naturally, no corpses were left behind. However, about 10,000 years ago, I vaguely heard a trace of an unusual sound, and also sensed a strange aura in the Dragon Palace. By the way, the demonic aura that enveloped the entire Dragon Palace seemed to have gradually become stronger from then on." Fairy Bai Chen hurriedly replied. After all, her intelligence had only completely recovered in the past few hundred years. Although she had memories before, she was in a puppet state without thoughts and emotions. At this time, if Ziyue hadn't mentioned it, she wouldn't have remembered this information. It only started 10,000 years ago? Ziyue's expression changed, and the ominous premonition in his heart grew stronger. However, he knew that it was useless to think too much at this time, so he could only suppress it. Then he began to be curious about the situation in the front hall of the Dragon Palace in the distance. With a thought, he hurriedly displayed the two great divine abilities that he had just comprehended after breaking the golden core shackles, listen and void projection. Most of the great divine abilities contained in the golden core shackles were not offensive or defensive method. Instead, most of them were auxiliary functions. Listen and void projection were two of the skills that he found to be quite practical. At this time, when he used them, he immediately heard the sounds of battle in the distance. At the same time, the void turned illusory, as if a mirror had emerged, and an incomparably clear image appeared in front of his eyes. It was the image of many experts fighting in the distance. This method is amazing. Fairy Bai Chen couldn't help but be surprised when she saw this, but she was soon attracted by the scene of the battle in the image. In the image, the late-stage essence Soul Realm Fu Yunfan, the mid-stage essence Soul Realm Mo Fan, Wang Xueji and Wan Zhongyun, the early-stage essence Soul Realm Hua Dingshan, Situ Hai and Su Liming, the demonic cultivators Wraith Devourer Demon Sovereign, Kong Mo and many monster kings of the sea monsters, as well as land monsters and rogue cultivators. In total, there were more than 20 Essence Soul Realm experts crazily fighting with the black-scaled lizard demons. In addition, there were more than 100 Golden Core Realm experts. At this moment, regardless of whether it was the human cultivators, the sea monsters, or the demonic cultivators, they began to join forces and fought fiercely with the black-scaled lizard demons, even if they had great grudges before. They used all kinds of methods and attacked crazily, and a tragic atmosphere filled the air. From time to time, there would be experts screaming and dying. There were even groups of black-scaled lizard demons that were swept by sword light, attacked by magic treasures, and penetrated by divine light, losing their lives. The ground was covered with corpses. The smell of blood spread and condensed into a shocking murderous aura. The great battle seems to have entered its final stage. There are much fewer black-scaled lizard demons than before. There are only a few hundred of them left, and they are relatively strong. At the same time, the number of experts who came in this time has also decreased greatly. None of the survivors are weak. Ziyue muttered, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. The death of every black-scaled lizard demon not only meant one less problem for him, but also an increase in his spiritual energy. Previously, he had spent a lot of spiritual energy to upgrade his Dao Spell Dharma idol, reaching more than 560 million. In addition to the recovery from breaking the shackles of the Golden Core, he had spent more than 600 million spiritual energy, leaving only 300 million spiritual energy on his attribute panel. However, at this moment, the number of spiritual energy on his attribute panel had soared to 900 million spiritual energy. He estimated that it would not be long before it broke through 900 million and reached 1 billion. With 1 billion spiritual energy, my attribute panel will definitely go into an upgrade. It may not be a good thing to upgrade when the great battle is about to happen. However, I no longer have any Dao spell or other methods that require spiritual energy to upgrade. Even the immortal technique realm has reached the peak of the supreme primordial Dao, and there is no way to upgrade it. It seems that I can only sit and watch the attribute panel upgrade. Ziyue muttered in his heart, but he did not regret it. The attribute panel had been of great help to him, and it had always been his biggest trump card. If he had the attribute panel with him during the great battle, he would feel more at ease. Not to mention, the attribute panel still had the power to backtrack time, which could increase his combat strength by more than 30%. However, he was already strong enough, and with the Kunwu Golden Pagoda in hand, he was confident that he could deal with all kinds of enemies. He did not care about the vitality of the attribute panel, which could not be used for a month. Therefore, he let the spiritual energy on the attribute panel continue to increase, reaching 950 million, 960 million, 970 million, until it reached 1 billion. The moment the spiritual energy reached 1 billion, Baizue's heart skipped a beat. When he looked at the attribute panel again, he saw the words, upgrading. The victor is about to be decided. Although there are many demons, the decisive battle strength among them is not strong. The strongest ones are only equivalent to the early-stage essence soul realm, and the strongest is only comparable to the mid-stage essence soul realm. However, the human cultivators, the demonic cultivators, and the sea demons all have high-end combat strength comparable to the late-stage essence soul realm. Although they do not have the advantage in numbers, it is only a matter of time to deal with these demons. At this moment, Fairy Bai Chen whispered in a light voice. She harbored hatred for these demonic beings and extraterrestrial demons. After all, the Jade Lake Immortal sect that gave birth to her was destroyed and lost because of the otherworldly demons. That's right, it is about to end. However, it won't end so soon. Ziyue approached silently with Fairy Bai Chen and whispered, with the strength of Fu Yunfan, soul-devouring demon supremacy, demon monarch Ao Su, and demon monarch Tsanggu, if they really wanted to deal with these black-scaled lizard demons, the battle would have ended long ago. However, because they are wary of each other, they did not use their full strength. Wait and see, when the battle is about to end, there will definitely be disputes between them. At that time, it will be the most intense and tragic time. Baizuo chuckled and said. Fairy Bai Chen nodded. She was also aware of this point. On the battlefield, there were immortal cultivators, demonic cultivators, sea demons of various races, itinerant cultivators, and even land demon monarchs. There were all kinds of people, and they naturally had their own thoughts. Previously, when facing so many black-scaled lizard demons, they could only maintain a superficial cooperation by fighting together. However, when the battle was about to end, this cooperation could be easily torn apart. However, even Ziyue did not expect that they would tear up the agreement so quickly. When there were more than 100 black-scaled lizard demons left, the Demon Dao powerhouse Kong Mo suddenly sped through the void and pounced on the huge demonic saber on the ground. For Demon Dao cultivators, demonic treasures were comparable to spirit treasures among cultivators. Almost no Demon Dao cultivator could resist the temptation. Previously, because of the countless black-scaled lizard demons and the subtle exclusion of other powerhouses, Kong Mo naturally had to hold back and wait for the opportunity. Now, when the battle was about to end and their side had a huge advantage, he could no longer hold back and pounced on the demonic saber. How dare you! Quick, stop him! You're courting death! A series of furious roars could be heard. Even soul-devouring demon supremacy's expression changed, and his eyes revealed a strong murderous intent. He was determined to get the demonic saber, and naturally would not allow it to fall into the hands of others. Even if Kong Mo was also a Demon Dao cultivator like him, the two of them came from different Demon Dao sections. In addition, Kong Mo's speed was extremely fast and surpassed him. If the demonic saber really fell into the hands of Kong Mo, he was not confident that he could get it back. Chapter 763. Thus, in the blink of an eye, several experts gave up on their opponents and rushed towards Kong Mo. He even launched his own attacks from afar. Rumble! Just as Kong Mo's palm touched the hilt of the demonic saber, a flying sword whistled and rushed over. Kong Mo's expression changed, and he instantly threw out a black skull. The black skull collided with the flying sword and shattered with a cracking sound. However, the terrifying power contained within forced the flying sword back. Then, without pausing, he threw out diamond-shaped blades one after another. They looked like the scales of a greater demon, but also like the ghastly white bones of a top expert. As soon as they appeared, they merged together to form an enormous, flawless, diamond-shaped shield, which then rose up in front of Yang Qi to block his path. Boom! 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 Several subsequent attacks landed on the diamond-shaped shield, causing the spiritual light on the shield to dim and deform slightly, but it did not completely collapse. Humph, let's go, Kong Mo sneered. His diamond-shaped shield was a high-grade primordial spirit defensive treasure that he had specially chosen from the treasure vault of the true Devil Sect. With full support, it was enough to block a full-powered attack from a late-stage primordial spirit realm expert. It was also because of this treasure that he dared to snatch food from the tiger's mouth and directly snatch the demonic saber. Pleased with himself, he gripped the demonic saber tightly. With a slight force, he poured the power of his primordial spirit into it in an attempt to resist the backlash of the demonic aura within the demonic saber and grab it out. However, the moment the power of his primordial spirit poured in, a strong sense of resistance surged out from the demonic saber. The baleful aura contained within was so dense that it almost immediately tore his primordial spirit into shreds and poured into his mind. Impossible! This demonic treasure has. His expression changed drastically, and his heart was overwhelmed with shock. Boom! It was also at this moment that a magic treasure that looked like an iron nail was ruthlessly nailed onto the diamond-shaped shield, almost instantly shattering it. Moreover, the remaining force did not decrease as it ruthlessly nailed onto Kong Mo's head, who had just been overwhelmed with shock and did not have time to react. It instantly pierced through. It directly devoured and annihilated the primordial spirit in his head. It was the soul-devouring demon supremacy who had used a ruthless move at the critical moment to kill him. Bang! The huge demonic saber that had just been lifted sank to the ground again with a dull thud. Kong Mo's actions were like the last straw that crushed the hearts of all the experts. In an instant, the already fragile cooperation between the experts was torn to shreds. In an instant, even more powerhouses began to fight for their own interests. Or, they used a sneak attack, to attack the enemy that was originally a thorn in their eye's eye. Or an eye they fought because of some primordial spirit realm primordial spirit's eyes. Among them, Fu Yunfan and a demon supremacy, the of the demonic saber. Demon king of the eye and demon of the demonic saber eye of the eye of the eye of the eye. Of the eyes the of the eye of the eye. I of an eye of the eye of the eye. Of an eye. I didn't expect a dispute to appear so soon. More than 10 experts from various factions have died in a short period of time. More than half of them died at the hands of their own people. Only 3 or 4 of them actually died at the hands of the black-scaled lizards. Fairy Bai Chen couldn't help but exclaim in astonishment. That's normal. This group of experts is too complicated. No one is willing to submit to the others, and no one trusts the others. Once there's a disturbance, the birds will naturally scatter and fight for themselves. Some even kill each other. Needless to say, Kong Mo's actions could be said to have angered everyone. Naturally, look at the ground. As Ziyue spoke, his expression suddenly changed. Through the void projection, he looked at the crisscrossing corpses scattered all over the ground. Most of the corpses belonged to the black-scaled lizards entrenched here, but there were also many corpses of humans, sea monsters, demonic cultivators, and land demon experts. The tragic scene was already shocking to the eyes. But at this moment, a strange scene appeared on the ground. Under the effect of a special force, a large amount of flesh and blood essence seemed to be absorbed by an invisible force and quickly disappeared. As the flesh and blood essence was absorbed, the corpses quickly dried up and lost their luster. Some of the weaker ones had died earlier, and their flesh and blood essence had been completely devoured. Their corpses had completely dried up, and with the wind of the battle, they turned into powder and disappeared without a trace. This, Fairy Bai Chen's face was aghast. She couldn't help but look at Ziyue and ask, "What is this? If even you don't know, then I don't know either." Ziyue's face was solemn. After thinking for a while, he said, "If I'm not wrong, there are still people who didn't die in the battle tens of thousands of years ago." "Not dead? Who?" Fairy Bai Chun hurriedly asked. She was also shocked and let her imagination run wild. If there were really people who didn't die, then they were existences from 30,000 years ago. The battle at the Dragon Palace back then was more than 30,000 years ago. Even the Xian Turtle clan, which is born with an extremely long lifespan, rarely have existences at the Essence Soul realm who can live for 30,000 years. Therefore, if there were really people who survived that battle back then, they must be spirit-severing stage powerhouses. Ziyue calmly analyzed. That's right. Only spirit-severing stage powerhouses whose essence soul has broken through the limits of the world and their lifespan has increased greatly. They can almost live as long as the world and can live until now. Although I didn't personally experience that battle in the ancient times, I can also feel that there were only two spirit-severing stage powerhouses. It was Ao Qing of the Dragon Clan and this otherworldly demon. As Fairy Bai Chun spoke, she stared at the corpses of the two spirit-severing stage powerhouses and said in disbelief, "Could it be that they are still alive? To be precise, that otherworldly demon is still alive. As for the spirit-severing stage powerhouse of the Dragon Clan, Ao Qing, he is really dead. Because if he is still alive, then in the true Dragon Soul Palace that we entered previously, his soul lamp must still be lit. However, it doesn't include those whose soul lamps are still lit," Ziyue said calmly. In that case, as Fairy Bai Chun spoke, she looked at the scene in the void projection again. To be precise, she looked at the group of powerhouses in the battle and couldn't help but reveal a deep look of pity. A spirit-severing stage powerhouse, and one that has lived since ancient times. They are courting death. I don't know if they are courting death or not. But it's obvious that we don't have much time left. Long ago I had always felt that something was wrong and was a little uneasy. It was just that I didn't know what the reason was, so I didn't delve into it. Now it seems that the otherworldly demon was clearly severely injured in that battle back then. The reason why it didn't appear and frantically absorbed the flesh and blood essence was to recover its vitality. The more time passes, the more it will recover. Therefore, we have to make a decision. As Ziyue spoke, he felt a trace of anxiety in his heart. He knew that if the otherworldly demon was allowed to continue recovering, a disaster would definitely descend. And as long as he was still in the Dragon Palace, it would be difficult for him to escape misfortune. Most importantly, he had already seen that the otherworldly demon seemed to have recovered some vitality after absorbing the flesh and blood essence of so many powerhouses from various races and the black-scaled lizard demons. It had actually begun to set its sights on the huge spirit-severing stage true dragon corpse. Vaguely, the flesh and blood essence of the true dragon corpse, which was originally incomparably stable and belonged to a spirit-severing stage powerhouse, actually showed signs of being activated. I have to stop it. I have to stop the otherworldly demon from devouring the vitality of the true dragon corpse. A strong sense of danger rose in Ziyue's heart. Even though the corpse of a spirit-severing stage true dragon had long fallen, it still contained terrifying and incomparably stable essence energy. For the heavenly demon that had been severely injured, it was definitely a supreme tonic. It even surpassed the sum of the flesh and blood essence of countless powerhouses from various races and the black-scaled lizard demons on the ground. If he really allowed it to devour, what he would face in the future would definitely be an otherworldly demon at the spirit-severing stage. Thinking of this, Ziyue couldn't help but shiver. He immediately no longer cared about hiding and hurriedly rushed towards the battlefield. As he rushed towards the battlefield, Ziyue asked Fairy Bai Chun in a solemn tone, "Where can I return to the astral realm from the Dragon Palace?" As the saying goes, one should first consider one's defeat before speaking of victory. Facing an immortal Tao powerhouse at the spirit-severing stage, even if the other party was severely injured, his current strength was probably less than 10%. However, an existence at that level had strange means and was incomparably powerful. He naturally had to prepare for the worst. Therefore, the first thing he thought of was a way out. Previously, when he had just entered the Dragon Palace, Ziyue had sensed that the entire Dragon Palace was actually located on a spatial node outside the astral realm. Therefore, the way to return to the astral realm was not to casually open the spatial membrane here. This was because it was very likely that if he stepped into it, he would enter the turbulence of the starry sky. Even a top primordial soul realm powerhouse would not dare to step into the turbulence of the starry sky. This was because the turbulence of the starry sky was very dangerous. Even a small turbulence was very likely to destroy and annihilate them. Even if they were lucky enough to survive, they would be pushed out of the turbulence and be further and further away from the astral realm. If they were lucky, they might be able to find a place to stay in the vast starry sky. If they were unlucky, they would die of old age or die of exhaustion due to being unable to absorb the violent energy in the turbulence of the starry sky. These were very likely to happen. Therefore, he had to find a way to safely return to the astral realm. There are actually teleportation formations in the Dragon Palace that lead to the outside world. Among them, there are 2 in the Dragon Palace and 2 at the entrance of the North and South Dragon Palace. However, because it has been a long time and the outbreak of the Great Battle, I am not sure if these teleportation formations are still intact. By the way, the teleportation formation in the backyard of the Dragon Palace is actually near the Memory Inheritance Hall. Judging from the way we passed by, it was obviously destroyed by the Great Battle. As for the other one, it is actually in the front hall of the Dragon Palace, which is not far from the battlefield. From the image, the main hall where the teleportation formation is located is intact, but I am not sure if it has been damaged. As she spoke, Fairy Bai Chen paused and said, "In addition to the teleportation formation, there is actually another way, which is to use the space punctuation to forcibly tear open the space membrane. As long as you remember the space punctuation, even in the turbulence of space, it is equivalent to a cultivator having a direction and can use it to return to the astral realm. Of course, the Dragon Palace is located near the astral realm after all. Therefore, if you can tear open space, you can see the astral realm at a glance. Even if there is no space node, you can naturally get close and forcibly tear open the space membrane of the astral realm to step into the astral realm. I heard that the turbulence of space is very dangerous. If you are not careful, you will be swept away by the turbulence and annihilated into ashes," Ziyue asked worriedly. "The surroundings of the astral realm are relatively safe because of the stability of the power of the world. Even an expert in the early stage of the essence soul realm can travel within 10,000 miles. However, because they do not have the ability to break the space membrane, they cannot really enter the turbulence of space. As for experts above the peak of the essence soul realm, because they have the ability to break the space membrane, many experts will actually go to various places in the turbulence of space to take risks. This is because the turbulence of space contains wonders that the astral realm has never seen before. It is also endlessly nurtured by creation, and there is a great possibility that it contains supreme treasures. There may even be natural spiritual treasures." As Fairy Bai Chen spoke, she could not help but look at Ziyue again. Seeing the relieved look on his face, she could not help but ask in surprise, "Could it be that you already have the ability to break the space membrane?" "Barely," Ziyue said humbly. He did not explain. Before cultivating his great path Dharma form to perfection, his Tao techniques, the 9 extinction divine sword and the essence fused divine light, had already reached the peak of the essence soul realm and had the ability to break the space membrane. Now that his great path Dharma form had reached perfection, his strength had increased exponentially and it was naturally easier to break the space membrane. Fairy Bai Chen was stunned. She had just asked casually and did not think so in the depths of her heart. In the end, Bai Ziyue's casual statement shook her to the point that her mind was shaken. Could it be that his actual combat strength had really reached the peak of the Essence Soul realm? The two of them seemed to have a lot to talk about, but the time they spent talking was extremely short. While they were talking, in the void image, the experts of various races who were fighting quickly noticed the changes on the ground. In an instant, each of them had their own guesses and quickly took action, putting all the corpses on the ground into their own storage bags. They stopped the mysterious existence from devouring the flesh and blood essence of the corpses. They also quickly turned their attention back to the group of black-scaled lizard demons and began to work together tacitly again. Chapter 764. There was no doubt that if there was something strange in the Dragon Palace, it must have something to do with the black-scaled lizard demons that were born here. The inexplicable changes made all the powerhouses uneasy, and they instinctively linked it to the black-scaled lizard demons. Therefore, the group of cultivators who were fighting each other just now joined forces again and began to eliminate the black-scaled lizard demons. Of course, there were also powerhouses who took this opportunity to set their sights on the true dragon's corpse and the extraterrestrial demon's corpse. They resisted the powerful true dragon's pressure and the demonic aura as they approached carefully. They activated their divine consciousness, wanting to take the opportunity to take the two corpses away. However, both the true dragon's corpse and the extraterrestrial demon's corpse were too huge. They also contained terrifying energy and revealed various Tao accumulations, which naturally had a suppressive effect on low-level cultivators. Although many of the cultivators present were not weak, it was not that easy to move the corpse of a mighty figure at the spirit-severing stage with the strength of an Essence Soul Realm cultivator. At least it would take time. A considerable amount of time. The black-scaled lizard demons, who were restraining each other, would not give them the time to do so. Not to mention Rumble. Under the effect of a special force, a black-scaled lizard demon seemed to have been replenished with endless energy, and its body expanded like a balloon in an instant. A terrifying aura filled the air, and its power was far more terrifying than before. It was the emperor of the black-scaled lizard demon kings, whose strength had reached the middle stage of the Essence Soul realm. At this moment, its power skyrocketed, and it was not weaker than Fu Yunfan's late-stage Essence Soul realm. At this moment, the other black-scaled lizard demons seemed to have received some kind of order and suddenly became extremely crazy, fierce and ferocious. They stimulated their potential to the extreme and burned their bloodline essence to attack. The sudden change immediately caused the powerhouses of the various races to panic. Soon, there were cultivators who were killed by the black-scaled lizard demons because of this. 1 person, 2 people, 3 people, among them there was even a human powerhouse and a sea demon king. Ziyue advanced rapidly, not stopping at all the dragon palaces that he passed by. Soon, he approached the battlefield and saw many experts fighting fiercely in the distance. He also saw the 2 huge corpses on the ground, which had been here for tens of thousands of years. Among them, the true dragon's tail was broken, and only its bones were connected. On the dragon god there were many crisscrossing scars. The crimson blood dripped onto the ground, bright and glistening. It even transformed into a true dragon blood crystal, sparkling and translucent, containing boundless energy. On the other side, the corpse of the extraterritorial demon was dark blue in color. Its palm had 4 fingers and was very thick. There were also several holes on its body, but no blood flowed out. It just looked deep and hollow. The entire body of the Sky Devil was over 1,000 feet long and over 20 feet tall. They seemed to be slightly larger than the true dragon, and one of their legs had been completely severed and scattered in the distance. Even though Ziyue had seen such a scene through the void projection before, facing it directly still gave him a speechless shock. Even though there didn't seem to be any vitality on these two corpses, he could still clearly sense the aura of the Tao that belonged to the spirit-severing stage powerhouse. It was too strong. Just the pressure of the demonic qi made him feel breathless. If they fought here, his strength would probably be suppressed, and he would only be able to use 80% of his strength. This was the influence of the Tao of a spirit-severing stage powerhouse. Even though the other party had been dead for tens of thousands of years, he was still so powerful. However, no wonder so many experts couldn't discover the strangeness of the extraterritorial demon. I really can't sense any vitality on it. Obviously, its primordial spirit avatar is not on its body. Ziyue approached, but he had already expected this. If not, with the shrewdness of so many experts, they definitely wouldn't have only discovered it now. Someone is here? Peak Golden Core Realm? It's him. Taoist North Ming. He finally appeared. Ziyue's appearance quickly attracted the attention of many experts, especially Mo Fan and Wang Xueji. The reason why they appeared in the Endless Ocean was because of Ziyue. Seeing that he had indeed appeared in the Dragon Palace, they revealed a trace of excitement. But then everyone was shocked, because they suddenly realized that the direction Ziyue appeared was not right. He seems to have come out from the depths of the Dragon Palace? Could it be that he can enter the Dragon Palace from other places? That means that he has already plundered all the treasures in the Dragon Palace? Countless experts turned pale with fright. Then, their eyes were filled with strong murderous intent. Especially the soul-devouring demon supremacy and the many monster kings of the Endless Ocean, who knew the treasures in the Dragon Palace far better than ordinary cultivators. They knew that there must be spiritual treasures in it, and they were even more anxious. Ziyue didn't care too much about it. Lightning flashed on his body, and he rushed out rapidly. However, a flying sword had already rushed out a step ahead, like a flash of light. Poof! A black-scaled lizard monster king that was fighting fiercely with a human cultivator stiffened, and it was pierced through and killed. Then, the remaining force of the flying sword did not decrease, and it was slightly controlled by Ziyue. Poof! The head of the second black-scaled lizard monster king soared into the sky. So powerful, such a sharp sword! Some of the greedy experts of the various clans were shocked when they saw this, and a trace of caution appeared on their faces. Killing two black-scaled lizard monsters that were comparable to early-stage Essence Soul Realm cultivators with a single slash was not an easy feat, at least among the many experts. Only the soul-devouring demon supremacy, Fu Yunfan, several monster kings, Wang Xueji, Mo Fan, and a few others could do it. And what shocked them the most was that Ziyue's immortal spell was only at the peak of the Golden Core Realm. Ziyue did not stop at all after killing the two black-scaled lizard monsters that were an eyesore along the way. Under the effect of the gravity shadow domain, the true dragon's aura and the invasion of the demonic qi had minimal effect on him. Soon, he approached the edge of the spirit-severing stage true dragon's corpse. At this moment, Monster King Ao Su of the Black Flood Dragon Clan, Monster King Turtle Feather of the Spirit Turtle Clan, Monster King Sea Shark of the Sea Shark Clan, Wang Xueji, Wan Zhongyun, and Hua Dingshan of the Human Cultivators, as well as the six-fingered Heavenly Demon of the Demonic Cultivators, and other experts were all over the true dragon's corpse, fighting for the true dragon's blood crystals, dragon scales, and other treasures on the corpse. At the same time, they used their techniques to try to keep the entire true dragon's corpse in their own storage space. Ziyue's arrival caused many experts to be on guard, but they did not pay too much attention to him. Monster King Ao Su and the others did not think highly of a Golden Core Realm cultivator, even if he displayed extraordinary combat strength and unparalleled might. Scram! You're courting death. Monster King Ao Su and Monster King Sea Shark growled in disdain and launched attacks at Ziyue. 9-star Dao Palaces. Wang Shuiji laughed heartily. There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. Do you really think my 9-star Dao Palace can't do anything to you, Dark North? As he spoke, he struck out with a ruler. The ruler extended and emitted terrifying energy fluctuations. It was like a giant pillar that slashed down. A bunch of idiot. The otherworldly demon isn't dead yet. If you don't want the spirit-severing stage expert to revive, let's work together to take away the true dragon's corpse first. Otherwise, the true dragon's flesh and blood essence, as well as the true dragon's essence, will become nourishment for the otherworldly demon and help him revive. Ziyue's body flashed, and he easily dodged the attacks with lightning speed. The otherworldly demon isn't dead yet? How is that possible? More than 30,000 years have passed. Many experts were shocked when they heard this, and they found it hard to believe. That was a spirit-severing stage expert. If he really hadn't died. Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but be shocked. What a joke. You say that he hasn't died, but is he really still alive? I think you're aiming for the true dragon's corpse. Monster King Ao Su sneered. He naturally didn't believe it. He swung his tail and a terrifying force crushed over. Although the others were surprised, they naturally didn't believe it completely. After a slight pause, they began to fight again. Wang Shuiji ignored Ziyue's words. He stretched out his hand, and countless puppets appeared in the void. These puppets were the 3,000 Taoist puppets he had extorted from the Qian family. Although each Taoist puppet wasn't very strong, only equivalent to the early Golden Core realm, when combined into a formation, the power they erupted with was enough to threaten a mid-stage Essence Soul Realm expert. At this moment, as soon as these puppets appeared, they instantly condensed into an oval-shaped array of puppets that spanned from top to bottom. And the center of this formation was Ziyue, who had just rushed over. As the puppet formation took shape, many flying swords rushed out from the puppet's hands, sweeping toward by Ziyue wantonly. Stubborn indeed. A cold light flashed in Ziyue's eyes. His figure flashed, and while dodging Monster King Ao Su's attack, he used the gravity shadow domain to the extreme with a thought. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The Taoist puppets that had just formed the formation instantly felt a terrifying gravitational force descend on them, and their bodies became unstable. In the blink of an eye, the puppet formation that had just formed was almost immediately broken. The Taoist puppets fell to the ground one after another like raindrops. Keep! At this moment, Ziyue shouted and stretched out his hand. A huge space immediately expanded on his sleeve, as if it was going to suck the entire world into his sleeve. It directly sucked in all of the Taoist puppets. It was another perfect great divine ability that he had used, Heaven and Earth Sleeve. How is this possible? Wang Shuiji's expression changed. He had actually lost the ability to sense all the Taoist puppets in an instant. However, he did not know how much Ziyue's strength had increased in such a short period of time. When he used the gravity shadow domain at full strength, even he himself could not bear it and would be affected. He would only be able to use 50% of his strength, let alone a group of Taoist puppets that only had Yuan Qi waves but no consciousness. As for the Heaven and Earth Sleeve, the internal defensive power was extremely strong and could only be broken by a late-stage Essence Soul Realm expert. It could also seal the space and block one's perception. If he could not break it, he would not be able to sense the aura of the Taoist puppets at all. Naturally, he would not be able to control them. It's impolite not to reciprocate. Ziyue was not a good-tempered person. After being attacked one after another, he would naturally choose to counterattack. The core essence energy in Xiao Chen's body surged, and a black thread silently appeared. Qi. With a soft sound, the black thread cut through the sky. At the same time, a flying sword also evolved to break all spells. It seemed to be connected to heaven and earth, and could pierce through any 2 points in the void. It was Ziyue's magnetic slash and sword of breaking all spells. Furthermore, the 2 attacks were aimed at the 2 experts. Oh no! You're courting death. Wang Xuezhi and Demon King Ao Su's expressions changed at the same time. They hurriedly attacked. However, how terrifying was Ziyue's current strength! Although he did not use any Taoist techniques, the strength of the magnetic slash and sword of breaking all spells attacks had reached the late-stage essence soul realm, and their power was extremely terrifying. Wang Xuezhi looked at the approaching magnetic slash. Under the strong threat of death, a trace of pain flashed across his face. He hurriedly took out a long black arrow. It was the precious treasure that he had extorted from the Qian family, the God-slaying arrow. The God-slaying arrow was a great killing weapon that specialized in killing essence soul realm expert. Not only could it track and kill the enemy, once it hit, it could unleash a power that was comparable to the full-force attack of a mid-stage essence soul realm expert. Almost all early-stage essence soul realm experts would be killed by this arrow. However, at this moment, he could only take it out as a life-saving measure. This was because he could clearly feel the power of Ziyue's attack. It was unstoppable. Once he was hit, he would definitely die. Therefore, he did not hesitate and quickly activated the God-slaying arrow. Swoosh! It quickly collided with the black thread. Rumble! After the extreme light flashed, the black thread only paused slightly and dimmed a little. However, it still flashed and slashed towards him. Fortunately, Wang Xuezhi was able to react after being blocked by the deicide arrow. As he retreated rapidly, he used all sorts of defensive and offensive technique. Finally, he managed to block the attack at the cost of a middle-grade defensive primordial spirit treasure and his qi and blood being depleted. Is his immortal technique realm really only at the peak of the golden core realm? The power of this attack is even stronger than Fu Yunfan's, who has reached the late-stage essence soul realm. Wang Xuezhi's face was pale and he was extremely shocked. He could not help but growl, "Is he still human?" He found it hard to believe that a human cultivator at the peak of the golden core realm could unleash a power that was comparable to the full-force attack of a late-stage essence soul realm expert. Not to mention human cultivators, even demons, extraterrestrial demons, or even legendary divine beasts. In his opinion, it was impossible to surpass 3 or 4 realms and unleash such a terrifying attack. Chapter 765. Was he still human? Wang Xuezhi couldn't help but feel bewildered and a little flustered. He suddenly realized that he might not be a match for him either. On the other hand, Ao Su didn't use his full strength because of his underestimation of Ziyue. Therefore, when the flying sword approached, he truly sensed the terror of the sword. He hurriedly threw out a sharp horn to block it while retreating rapidly. However, the power of Ziyue's sword was truly terrifying. Because of the flying sword's sharpness, it was even stronger than the magnetic slash. As such, with just a slight touch, it easily pierced through the horn, which was comparable to a mid-grade essence soul treasure. It didn't lose any momentum as it continued to stab toward Ao Su. Damn it! Ao Su's expression changed as he felt a strong sense of danger. In his panic, he happened to see Sea Shark, who was also retreating not far away. He made up his mind and swung his dragon tail, instantly spinning. With a howl, he swept Sea Shark Demon King in front of him. Ao Su, #yen *@%. Sea Shark was terrified and cursed angrily. However, Ao Su was a mid-stage essence soul realm great demon king after all. His bloodline talent was astonishing and his strength was terrifying. He couldn't break free at all. Immediately after, the flying sword arrived and instantly pierced his body. A terrifying power erupted. It directly pierced through its body. The sharp sword chi followed a strange trajectory, wantonly destroying its flesh, blood, vitality, and primordial spirit. It tore the thousand-piercing terror of the thorn into pieces. Dead. Everyone's expression changed. Demon Monarch Sea Shark was not weak. Although it was because of Ao Su's sneak attack, the outcome still shocked them. It should be pointed out that Demon King Ao Su was even stronger. Although he was only at the mid-stage of the primordial spirit realm, his battle prowess was actually not weaker than a late-stage primordial spirit realm expert. Bai Ziue's sword was originally aimed at Demon King Ao Su. If not for the fact that he knew he could not avoid it, why would he use his technique to block Demon King Sea Shark, who had always been following him? In other words, Ziue's sword was enough to threaten a late-stage primordial spirit realm expert. You've underestimated him. His strength is absolutely not inferior to mine in the slightest. In fact, he's even stronger than me. Ao Su's expression was ugly. It was indeed fearful when it faced Bai Ziue's sword head-on. He knew that with his strength, even if he managed to block the attack, he would still be severely injured. Because of this, after weighing the pros and cons, he had placed Sea Shark Demon King in front of him to block this attack for him. Right now, as it watched the other party die, it did not feel any guilt in its heart. However, it still felt shock and lingering fear. They all have some tricks up their sleeves. Ziue was slightly surprised, but he wasn't surprised. As a mid to late stage essence spirit realm expert, which one of them did not have one or two trump cards to protect themselves? Be it Confucian god Wang Xuezhi or Demon King Ao Su, neither of them were weak. However, that's all. Ziue muttered as lightning once again appeared on his body. The flying sword buzzed and vibrated, as if it was brewing a murderous intent. Quick, let's join forces. Wang Xuezhi turned pale with fright. He had just blocked Bai Ziue's attack and was already severely injured. He did not have the confidence to face Bai Ziue's attack again, so he hurriedly shouted at Wan Zhongyun and Hua Dingshan. Previously, it was the three of them who had joined forces to block Ao Su and Sea Shark Demon King and gain the upper hand in the battle for the True Dragon's Corp. Wan Zhongyun's expression changed as he hesitated. He had seen Ziue's strength with his own eyes. If possible, he would not want to provoke him. Fellow Taoist Wang, I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do. In comparison, Hua Dingshan was much more decisive. Not only did he reject them directly, but he also flew away from the True Dragon's corpse. As the old city lord of the Great Whale Immortal City, he was naturally very observant. In addition, when he met his son, Huafengyu, he learned from Huafengyu that Bai Ziue was able to kill primordial spirit realm beginner and intermediate primordial spirit realm sea demons. Therefore, he dared not provoke Bai Ziue. Therefore, when Ziue appeared, he was actually the most nervous. He was also the only primordial spirit realm expert present who was submissive in front of Ziue. Go! Ziue used the lightning escape light and approached again. He waved his hand and a ball of spiritual light was released. It rapidly radiated and landed on Wang Xuezhi's body. Zzz, an invisible binding force almost instantly sealed his primordial spirit in his body, making him unable to move at all. Then, the flying swords around him flashed. Boom boom boom. This sword was swift and nimble. The flying sword streaked across the void, causing a loud boom. Save me! Wang Xuezhi shouted in shock, as he frantically burned the power of his primordial spirit to wear down the sealing force. He quickly retreated, trying to use all his strength to continue resisting. He wanted to save himself. However, Ziue's sword was too fast. A sword streaked across the primordial spirit. Its trajectory seemed clear, but when one looked at it, the flying sword was no longer in its original position. In addition, he had been sealed by Ziue's great spirit sealing technique. Even though he managed to break free in an instant, in a battle between experts, he could attack countless times in a single breath. In fact, he did not even have time to react before the flying sword streaked across the primordial spirit. Poof! It directly penetrated his head. I thought he was strong. Now it seems like he's just SOSO. This thought flashed through Ziyue's mind. He knew that it was because his strength had increased again. If he was still at the late or mid-stage Golden Core realm, he would naturally have to retreat when facing Wang Xueji, who was at the mid-stage Primordial Spirit realm and had outstanding battle records. On the other hand, Mo Fan, who he was previously wary of, was probably just SOSO. After all, he was only at the mid-stage Primordial Spirit realm. He was no match for a true late-stage Primordial Spirit realm expert. On the other hand, his combat strength was truly at the late-stage Primordial Spirit realm. In fact, he could even be considered an expert among those at the late-stage Primordial Spirit realm. If he were to use his Taoist techniques, after killing Wang Xueji with a single sword strike, Ziyue did not stop at all. He controlled the flying sword to flash again and quickly closed in on Ao Su. In the world of immortal spells, strength was everything. If one did not want others to look down on him, he had to display extraordinary combat strength. For example, when he first appeared, any primordial spirit realm cultivator dared to reprimand and insult him. However, when he attacked consecutively and killed many primordial spirit realm experts, no one present dared to look down on him anymore. Even Fu Yunfan and the wraith-devouring demon Supremacy, who were at the late-stage primordial spirit realm, looked solemn and alert to the extreme. Obviously, they already regarded him as an existence at the same level. However, it's still not enough. Just showing his strength was not enough for him. What he wanted to do was to establish his dominance. Although the early-stage Primordial Spirit Realm Demon King Sea Shark and the mid-stage Primordial Spirit Realm Demon King Confucian were not weak, in his opinion, they were not at the peak of the mid-stage Primordial Spirit Realm. With the support of the bloodline power, his combat strength was comparable to the third-tier late-stage Primordial Spirit Realm Demon King Ao Su. Humph! Ao Su acknowledged Ziyue's strength, but it did not mean that he was really afraid of him. With a cold snort, he revealed his true form of a black dragon. The towering horn on his head was like a long spear. The huge dragon head was somewhat similar to the true dragon on the ground. The black scales on his body shone with a dim light. Due to his anger, they were slightly erect like the tip of a blade. It was extremely cold. With a swing of his tail, a terrifying force swept out. Bam! As the scales and flesh splattered, Ziyue's flying sword was finally sent flying. A whoa! Immediately after, Ao Su let out a dragon-like roar. Then, he transformed into threads filled with destructive power and quickly swept in the direction of Ziyue. It also extended its dragon claw. Although it seemed to be moving slowly, when it extended its claw, the gigantic illusory dragon claw actually arrived before the threads of destructive power could reach him. You do have some skills. Ziyue's heart skipped a beat. A black thread silently rushed out and ruthlessly slashed out. It was the magnetic slash. With all of that, it collided with the illusory dragon claw. With a slight pause, the illusory dragon claw was sliced into pieces. The remaining power of the illusory dragon claw did not diminish. It collided with the destructive threads and rapidly sliced them into pieces. However, although the attack power of the magnetic slash was strong, its attack range was limited after all. Only the destructive threads in one direction were destroyed, while the destructive threads in other directions were like a giant net that enveloped heaven and earth, locking him in the void and then strangling him down. Rumble, the void was sliced apart by the destructive threads, seemingly turning into pieces. Divine Five Emperor's Robe. Ziyue's expression was calm. A robe quickly appeared and covered his body. The destructive threads all landed on the robe, making sizzling sounds, but could not penetrate it at all. It's time to end this. Ziyue looked at the corpses of Sea Shark Demon King and Wang Shuji on the ground. The essence of their flesh, blood, and yuan qi were rapidly draining away. In his anxiety, he could not care about the consumption of his Jindan essence. The Tao technique seed of the magnetic divine light in his body condensed, and a faint light flashed. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Suddenly, a dazzling divine light that seemed to contain the endless colors of heaven and earth appeared in Ziyue's hand. Then, he stretched out his hand and casually waved it. Chi chi chi. When the divine light shot out, the endless threads of destruction disappeared without a trace the moment they came into contact with the divine light. What? This attack, the power of this attack. Demon King Ao Su's eyes widened in disbelief. The profundity and terror of the attack caused a strong sense of fear to rise from the bottom of its heart. Before, he knew that Ziyue was extremely powerful and was not weaker than him. In fact, he was even slightly stronger than him. However, he was not afraid. This was because he knew that even if he was no match for him, he could escape with his own strength. But at this moment, facing the dazzling divine light, he truly felt despair. It was unstoppable. The power of this attack had already surpassed the limits of the late primordial spirit realm and reached the peak of the primordial spirit realm. It could break through the barrier of space and was not something he could withstand. Therefore, he hardened his heart. The scales that were originally giving off a dim light rapidly crumbled and broke apart. Thick blood spurted out from the broken scales. Moreover, its tail was also frantically burning at this moment. In the blink of an eye, it turned into ashes. Then, his figure flashed and his speed was extremely fast as he rushed straight into the distance. At this moment, he could be said to have used all his means. He successively used the scales bursting dam, flesh burning, tail severing, lifespan burning technique, and many other desperate techniques in order to escape as far as possible in the shortest time possible and escape from this attack. As for hiding, that was impossible. All remarkable abilities, great remarkable abilities, Tao techniques, especially when cultivated to a high level, had the ability to lock on to the target. If it was just a remarkable ability or great remarkable ability, with his strength and means, he could naturally break free from the lock and escape. For example, Ziyue was able to easily escape the locking power of Demon King Ao Su and Wang Shueji's attacks because of his extremely high level of strength and his strong control of the laws of heaven and earth. He was able to escape with the help of the lightning escape light. However, Ziyue's magnetic divine light was not only a Tao technique, but also a Tao technique that he had cultivated to perfection. Its level of strength and laws were too high and mysterious. He could not break free at all and could only rely on his extreme speed to dodge. He hoped that when he was far enough away, Ziyue's control of the divine light would be reduced and the power of the divine light would weaken. Only then would he be able to escape or disperse it. Trying to escape? Do you think you can escape? A faint light flashed in Ziyue's eyes. As if he had expected this, a human-shaped shadow rushed out from the top of his head in an instant. The shadow was extremely solid. He raised his eyes slightly and shouted softly. In an instant, a blurry ray of light shot out. It was he who had used his innate remarkable ability, Spirit Absent-Minded. Moreover, because he knew that Demon King Ao Su's strength was extremely strong and his primordial spirit was stable, he poured a third of the soul great golden thread into it when he used his innate remarkable ability. Sizzle, the blurry attack rushed out at a speed several times faster than Demon King Ao Su, who had unleashed his full strength and used many desperate techniques. In an instant, it rushed into his body and attacked his primordial spirit. Poof! As Ziyue's attack landed, Demon King Ao Su's body suddenly stiffened. His primordial spirit twitched and his face contorted. Even his body fell down. In the next moment, Ziyue's magnetic divine light swept over and directly covered him. Sizzle, his entire body, flesh, blood, and primordial spirit were directly shattered into powder and annihilated into ashes. Dead. Is this Taoist North Ming's true strength? He killed Demon King Ao-Su, who is comparable to a late-stage primordial spirit realm expert, with one blow. Isn't he too strong? I don't think there are many people in the entire celestial spirit sect who can match him. In the distance, True Venerate Mo Fan, who had been paying attention since Ziyue appeared and was about to abandon his opponent and attack him together, was stunned. He was stunned by the strength that Ziyue had displayed. He no longer dared to reveal the slightest killing intent in his eyes. Chapter 766. He was afraid. Ziyue's strength was far beyond his imagination. Such strength, such a strike. I didn't expect there to be such a powerful existence in the Dragon Palace. Fu Yunfan, the soul-devouring demon supremacy, and Demon King Tsanggu watched the battle from afar. Their expressions changed, and a strong sense of fear grew in their hearts. In terms of strength, Ao-Su wasn't weaker than any of them, yet he wasn't a match for Bai Ziyue and was annihilated by Bai Ziyue. So, they naturally felt apprehensive in their hearts and had some more misgivings. This battle ended very quickly. It only took a dozen breaths from start to finish. However, the outcome of the battle was beyond everyone's expectations. It was also extremely shocking and shocked everyone. It also allowed them to truly witness Ziyue's strength and remember the name Taoist North Ming. They knew that although he was only at the peak of the Golden Core realm, he had the battle record of crushing many primordial soul realm experts and killing Demon King Ao-Su, who was comparable to a late-stage primordial soul realm expert. If they returned to the astral realm, it would not take long for Ziyue's battle record to spread across the world and shock countless people. Most importantly, Ziyue's immortal technique realm was only at the peak of the Golden Core realm. Compared to the strength he displayed, the huge difference made countless primordial soul realm cultivators doubt their lives. After killing Demon King Sea Shark, Wang Xueji, and Demon King Ao-Su, Ziyue's expression was very calm. He did not speak and only looked around indifferently. Whether it was the turtle-feathered Demon King, Hua Dingshan, or Wan Zhongyun, none of them dared to meet his gaze. They even kept their distance and didn't dare to look at the true dragon corpse at his feet. Indeed, choosing to establish my dominance was the right choice. This way, it will be much quieter. No one will dare to be unlucky. Ziyue thought to himself and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He seemed to be having an easy time in this battle, as he had slain several primordial soul realm experts in a short period of time. However, using so many offensive techniques in succession had definitely exhausted his Jindan essence. After all, he was only at the peak of the Gold Core realm. Even though his core energy was far richer and purer than other cultivators of the same realm, no matter if it was a Taoist technique or a perfect grand divine ability, the consumption after using it was extremely huge. Previously, because he had the attribute panel, he could use his soul energy to replenish it without limit. Naturally, he didn't need to worry. However, now that Xiao Chen's attribute panel was in the process of upgrading, he could not replenish his core essence. All he could rely on was his own core essence reserve. Naturally, this was insufficient. After such a short period of intense battle, he already felt a sense of dearth. If a few more Essence Soul Realm experts were to join the fray, he would probably have a headache as well. At this moment, the others were intimidated by his methods and did not dare to approach. However, he took this opportunity to use the Northern Underworld Mountain Spirit Vein in the Northern Underworld Grotto Heaven to rapidly recover his core essence. Then, he quickly looked at the corpse of the true dragon on the ground. Seeing the strands of essence of the true dragon's flesh and blood flowing away rapidly under the influence of an unknown force, his heart tightened. Without hesitation, his soul energy landed on the corpse of the true dragon. As expected of the corpse of a true dragon, its Taoist connotation is natural. Even when I approach it, I feel a strong pressure descending. It's really not that easy to keep it in my northern underworld grotto heaven. Ziyue's mind came into contact with the corpse of the true dragon. Under the obstruction of the Taoist connotation, he could clearly feel the difficulty. However, his soul was complete and his resistance to the Taoist connotation was also far greater than other cultivators of the same realm. He was not weaker than a true primordial soul realm expert. With the help of the Great Spirit Golden Silk, he slowly invaded the corpse of the true dragon and covered it bit by bit. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths, Ziyue's mind gradually covered the entire corpse of the true dragon. 10%, 20%, 30%. When his mind covered 100% of the corpse, he could directly keep it in his northern underworld grotto heaven or his storage bag. Soon. Once the corpse of the true dragon is taken away, it will definitely be much more difficult for the hidden extraterrestrial demon to recover. The closer it was to this moment, the more nervous Ziyue became. He knew that if the extraterrestrial demon wanted to recover as soon as possible, it would definitely not allow such a thing to happen. 50%, 60%, 70%. As time passed, all the black-scaled lizard demons had fallen under the attacks of the various cultivators. However, the battle did not stop. Instead, it was divided into 3 areas. The battle at the corpse of the true dragon had stopped because of Ziyue's strong suppression. The other 2 areas were at the corpse of the extraterrestrial demon and the demonic saber. The corpse of the extraterrestrial demon had a strange shape. Its Tao connotation contained the power of the laws of the outside world. It was very strange and unique. Its value was no less than that of the corpse of the true dragon. As such, Fu Yunfan, the archaic monster king, and other experts were fighting over it. As for the demonic saber, it was a weapon on the same level as a spiritual treasure. Although it was not suitable for cultivators to use, it could still be refined and used to increase a cultivator's strength. It was very attractive to many experts. Apart from the Wraith Demon Senior, who was compatible with the demonic saber, True Venerate Mo Fan, the golden-scaled monster king, and the others were all fighting fiercely for the demonic saber. Damn it! Compared to the Wraith Demon Senior, who is in the late stage of the primordial soul realm, and the golden-scaled monster king, who has a powerful bloodline, my advantage isn't that obvious. True Venerate Mo Fan felt helpless. After a fierce battle, he was under a lot of pressure. He could clearly feel the difference in strength between them. He looked at the demonic saber on the ground with a burning gaze. Then, he looked at Ziyue, who was trying his best to collect the corpse of the true dragon in the distance. He finally wanted to retreat. This was because he could not guarantee that Ziyue would not guess his goal and attack him. With the strength that Ziyue had displayed, he would most likely die if Ziyue attacked him. Therefore, after blocking another attack, he finally retreated unwillingly. After a slight hesitation, he went straight into the depths of the Dragon Emperor Palace. Even though there were 3 extremely valuable treasures in this battlefield, he could only look for other treasures when there were so many experts around. As a matter of fact, many experts had the same idea as him. Many cultivators who knew that they could not compete for the 3 treasures had already gone into the depths of the Dragon Emperor Palace. Kill! The Wraith Demon Senior held a demonic banner in his hand. Streams of terrifying black smoke spread out and swept toward the golden-scaled monster king. Previously, it was very difficult for him to suppress the golden-scaled monster king because of True Venerate Mo Fan's restraint. However, now that True Venerate Mo Fan had retreated, it was much easier for him to attack. Die! The golden-scaled monster king roared. The trident in his hand stabbed out fiercely as if it was going to pierce a hole in the heavens and earth. Under the terrifying penetrating power, the Wraith Demon Senior could only block the attack. Between the two of them, the Wraith Demon Senior was at the late stage of the primordial soul realm. Although the golden-scaled monster king was only at the mid-stage of the primordial soul realm, his bloodline was extraordinary. He was born with a trace of the true dragon's bloodline. He could fight across a small level and was not any weaker than the Wraith Demon Senior. The two of them fought fiercely and were soon evenly matched. It was very difficult to determine the winner in a short period of time. However, at this moment, buzz! A buzzing sound was heard. The demonic treasure saber, which had been standing still, suddenly trembled. Then, a special saber light shot out like a waterfall across the void and slashed toward the golden-scaled demon king. Oh no! The demonic saber has awakened? The golden-scaled monster king's expression changed drastically. He quickly activated the power of his bloodline. Suddenly, the shadow of a true dragon appeared in front of him. Then, the shadow instantly turned into a golden light and charged toward the saber light. Rumble! The saber light dimmed slightly, but it still cut through the dragon's soul. Then, with a slight movement, a deep wound appeared on the golden-scaled monster king's body. What was even more terrifying was that the saber light contained a special and strange demonic aura. The moment it landed on the golden-scaled monster king's body, it wantonly destroyed his body, causing his chi and blood to be corrupted. His primordial soul suffered a calamity and was severely injured. The demonic saber has awakened? Could it be that the weapon spirit of the demonic saber has automatically chosen its owner? Countless powerhouses cried out in surprise, revealing looks of shock. The demonic saber naturally had a weapon spirit. However, generally speaking, the saber would not take the initiative to attack a cultivator unless it automatically recognized its owner. At this moment, the soul-devouring demon Supremacy, who was fighting the golden-scaled monster king, was also extremely surprised. This was because he could clearly sense the joy of the weapon spirit of the demonic saber and its emotions of wanting to recognize him as its owner. Although this emotion was slightly obscure and vaguely wrong, the soul-devouring demon Supremacy did not care. He guessed that this was because the weapon spirit was not powerful enough. Then, the demonic saber trembled slightly and soared into the sky, instantly landing in the soul-devouring demon Supremacy's hand. He felt extremely relaxed and natural. It was as if he could refine the demonic saber with just a thought. The demonic saber has awakened and automatically recognized its owner. I never thought that I, the soul-devouring demon Supremacy, would have such great luck. The soul-devouring demon Supremacy was so excited that he was almost trembling. He did not care about the golden-scaled monster king who had already escaped after being severely injured. He hurriedly opened his mind and extended his divine consciousness. He knew that even if the demonic saber had automatically recognized its owner, he would still need to extend his divine consciousness into the demonic saber and leave his own divine consciousness imprint on it. However, this process was extremely easy and fast. He could complete it with just a thought. He was excited and looking forward to it. Buzz. However, just as he relaxed his mind and planned to recognize the demonic saber as its owner as soon as possible so that he could exert the power of the demonic saber and compete for the other treasures, a terrifying demonic chi suddenly launched a swift and violent attack, directly surging toward his primordial spirit. Rumble! In merely a short period of time, his divine consciousness had already been stripped away and his divine consciousness was completely controlled by the demonic saber. Roar! An excited roar was heard. Then, a trace of madness appeared in the soul-devouring demon Supremacy's eyes. Then, he rapidly charged in the direction of Ziyue. Kill! He raised the demonic saber and terrifying power spread out. Then, he slashed out. When the saber light was slashed out, it was vast and mighty. It practically tore the entire world apart. This slash was extremely terrifying. It also contained an extremely profound power of the laws of Tao. Not only did it easily tear the world apart, it even borrowed the power of the world to carry the saber light's power and ruthlessly slashed out. What? This isn't the demonic saber recognizing its owner. The soul-devouring demon supremacy's mind has been taken away and his actions are completely controlled by the demonic saber. He no longer has his own consciousness and has become the saber slave of the demonic saber? Just how high is the grade of this devil treasure? Even the soul-devouring demon supremacy, who is at the advanced primordial soul realm, could not resist it? Many of the surrounding experts were stunned and found it hard to believe. This demonic saber was only equivalent to an inferior grade numinous treasure in terms of grade. Although it was extremely powerful, its demonic chi could only affect cultivators at the early stage of the primordial spirit realm. It would not have much effect on cultivators at the mid-stage or even late stage of the primordial spirit realm. Not only was the soul-devouring demon supremacy's strength shocking, reaching the advanced primordial soul realm, but he was also from the demonic sect. His natural resistance to demonic power was extremely strong. Logically speaking, his mind should not have been taken away, and he should not have been enslaved by the demonic saber. Although it was possible that the soul-devouring demon supremacy had lost his mind because the demonic saber had taken the initiative to recognize him as its owner, it still shocked everyone. The extraterrestrial demon has finally shown himself. He can't help but make his move. Ziyue had been paying attention to the battlefield and naturally knew what was happening in the distance. He almost instantly guessed that all of this was the work of the extraterrestrial demon. Moreover, after deducing all of the signs, he understood even more. In the battle 30,000 years ago, the extraterrestrial demon had indeed suffered unimaginable injuries. Not only had his physical body and vitality been obliterated, but his own primordial spirit had also suffered unimaginable injuries and had fallen into a deep slumber. However, as time passed, his primordial spirit slowly recovered and gradually woke up. Then, he made many preparations. He used the many corpses of the real dragons in the Dragon Palace, and even the extraterrestrial demon's flesh and blood essence and spiritual energy to heal his primordial spirit. He even used his doppelgangers to build an altar in the sea and lure many experts into the Dragon Palace. This time, because his primordial spirit had recovered to a certain extent and Ziyue was about to take away the real dragon's corpses, he could not help but make his move. However, the power of this attack is really terrifying. Ziyue's mind was clear, but in the face of the soul-devouring demon supremacy's attack, he was still incomparably shocked. In addition, he could not move the real dragon's corpses for a while. Therefore, with a thought, whoosh, whoosh, a huge pagoda quickly appeared on his body. It was the Kunwu Golden Pagoda that he had obtained from the Dragon Palace. The Kunwu Golden Pagoda was a true numinous treasure. After countless years, its grade was extremely high. Not only could it be used to train the strength of cultivators, but it also had a cultivation room of laws. It could also be used to defend and attack with the help of the numinous treasure itself. It was extremely useful. At this moment, under the threat of danger, Ziyue directly activated the Kunwu Golden Pagoda. Boom! It directly blocked the attack. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.